All right, go
qualities.
find that mermaid's blowhole is all I can suggest.
All by myself.
By the way, we are live now. Thank you.
Hello.
All right,
to
we
let you
won't
know.
mention the blowhole anymore.
Well, it's too late. You just did.
Oh, damn.
Okay, hang on. I'll be right back.
Oh, and then he leaves.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
he doesn't
right.
care
He's
what we're going
gone.
to say now.
Hi,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Hi, hi, hi.
Hello.
Now he's going to find the mermaid.
Yep, he is. They'll only be gone for 15 seconds, though.
Oh, well. We'll
That's
make
all it
no
takes.
comments about that.
Probably best.
Wow.
Wow.
So how's everyone doing out there? Not the blowhole.
No.
Off to a
we
good
go.
start.
I
Liz,
did
hi,
an
Liz.
interview with Sir Neville this week.
You
did.
Yeah, Sir Neville called me up and said, can I talk on PT UK? Pardon me, I think they're trying to take all your co-hosts, Jeff. I think
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sorry.
I don't know
Sorry
why
about
it's working, but you guys
Sneak
keep
them
coming
away.
back here. I don't know what's wrong.
That's what's really wrong with us.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to talk to Carlos and Matt again. Obviously,
Wow.
you're not offering them enough.
Wow.
Just holding out for more. I mean,
That's it.
drive a hard bargain around.
Oh, if you're watching this right now and you're watching us last episode, at the very end of it, apparently we were kind of overlapping into the PTUK time, and they ended up showing our live stream on their live stream. And I don't know, Steph, did you hear what
I
we
didn't
did?
get that far in the episode yet. I've watched about half of it so far.
So we just started having fun here, telling people watching their stream that they should go do something with their lives and stop wasting their time. And so you'll see it again, by the way, the next time they do their show.
Excellent.
A reprise. Yeah, it was fun. We had fun doing it. We didn't
for
mean
sure.
it, of course, as far as you know.
But you
Sad I
might
missed
not have done.
I meant every word of it.
What you did.
So, hello everyone in the chat room. By the way, I don't do this enough anymore, but I'm just so used to doing these live streams, and I forget that some of you watching right now may have never seen us do this. And the first thing that we always do, or like to do, is apologize for what you're going to watch and listen to. And the second thing is, we primarily do an audio podcast, and so this is the tool, the vehicle that we use to record the audio show. So we don't really purposely do this for video, although we're here. Hello. We like doing video. I like to see my co-hosts, and
like to
maybe
see myself.
sometimes they like to see me.
Just kidding.
Yeah, we like to see the live chat room. So if you ever have a chance, follow us on APG Crew and Airline Pilot Guy. And if you go to APG Crew, you can see all our individual social media or Twitter handles. But anyway, I put out a tweet, and then you can know when we're going to be doing this live. And it's a lot of fun. You can join the other folks in the live chat room. I should probably pull up the live chat room to see what they're talking about.
Nothing too bad.
Talking about
They want to know.
Latinos.
They want to know if you have new headphones.
Nope, these are the same headphones I've been wearing the last several shows. They are, what are they called?
I don't know. Turn your head more.
Turn your head.
Bear Dynamic DT770 Pros.
Of course.
And
Have you got new grey muffs or something?
I really rather not talk about my gray mouth. Thank you very much.
Great.
Yeah.
Changing the subject quickly, Guinness Rye Pale Ale. I do like it.
Ooh.
Yes, very
I
nice.
bet that is very good.
It is.
Well, I'm not drinking beer.
Me
I'm
neither.
drinking wine because it's much lower carbohydrates.
You're whining? Okay.
I just want to know why when it says courtesy cup, they charge you 29 cents for it.
Is that
Plus
right?
out of courtesy.
Out of courtesy, they're very courteous. We'll take
Courtesy
29
to
cents
them.
plus tax, which is 34 cents.
They could have
It's
slapped
are
you with
kidding me?
$1.50. See how courteous they're being?
Very courteous.
I just thought that was the cup you used when you were sitting on the street corner, Dana, trying to get enough cash there to buy your next beer.
Well, okay, if I drank beer.
Ah, of course.
I've seen you drink beer.
We
We
do
have
know
seen
I'm
it.
using my iPad, my MacBook Pro, right? And beer and my MacBook Pro don't get along.
You can throw all the bourbon over it you like, mate. That'll work.
It doesn't hurt at all.
Completely different substances. Completely different.
Yeah,
Exactly. I just don't get a match near it once
This is
you've
not
covered
bourbon
it.
today. This is just basically ice and some raspberry fizz stuff that's not even alcoholic. So I'm working tomorrow. I can't do that.
Got my chai tea latte.
Ah, nice.
Nice.
I have also to offset the alcohol, I have caffeine as well. And so I'm trying to make it a nice, fine balance. And I have my Port City Java coffee.
Jive.
Oh, you're in Wilmington.
It's Java Jive.
Nice.
Yes. I love this town.
Wilmington is very
This
nice.
is awesome. Yeah. We got in last night.
Are you in Wilmington?
And yeah. And I'm here all day today and then don't leave until tomorrow morning. And it's a beautiful,
Did you
it's
go
beautiful
visit the
weather,
battleship?
beautiful city. No, I've been spending the last 5 hours preparing for the show.
We have all day tomorrow, right?
Talking of that, what time are we starting?
No.
15 minutes
Now,
ago?
Oh,
we're
okay,
starting.
great.
By the way,
We need to get
last
out.
week when we did the clapping thing, it was brilliant, except for I wasn't recording when we did the clap thing. I kept looking for the clap on my recording, and I think, you idiot, you weren't even recording.
I love it.
But we have two nice claps on your
You
end.
need a new checklist, Jeff.
You know, if I actually could use a checklist, that would be handy. But apparently I don't know how to use them.
Mine only did record 48 minutes last week or 2 weeks
Oh, really?
ago.
So I don't know why that happened.
I don't either.
Maybe occasionally go over and make sure it's still recording.
Okay.
Because I think there is a setting somewhere. I don't know exactly where it is,
I'll have to
where
look through
you
things.
can restrict how long it records.
Yeah, but 48 minutes and 39 seconds? That's about how long I was
Wow.
actually on the show for.
Well, I
Right?
don't know. It's kind of weird because
Didn't I leave early?
because there was some more of you talking after your recording ended, and because I record the UStream.
Maybe I prematurely. Sorry.
That could be. Doing something
Well, let's get the show on the
prematurely
road.
is
It's
never
15
a good idea.
I know.
It's
All
all you
right.
can eat show for $15.95. I'm missing out
Well,
on
you just
some.
feel free to leave whenever you want, Dana.
I won't.
Let's see. What else was I going to say? Jordan Rose is in the chat room. I just wanted to let you know that he said last week, I would have been there for the show, but I did not see your tweet. I mean, your push notification. For some reason, the apps are not putting out the push notifications. Unless you're here in the chat room and somebody has an Android device, let me know. Did you get my tweet? Push for this. Because I know for sure it's not working on iOS. Did you receive anything, Nick,
I got
or
it.
stuff?
Yeah, I
You
got
did?
it today. Oh,
I got it today, too.
The push?
Yes, I did.
yeah, 2 hours ago. I did.
Oh,
Yep.
maybe
I
it's
got
just
it.
me that's not getting it.
Looking,
Jordan, did you get one today?
I got it 2 hours ago. Yeah.
And it was a push, not the tweet that I put out.
Yeah, it was the push.
No, it was a push.
No, I didn't see one on mine.
See?
Yeah.
Well, I
Sent it
can't
to
see.
me.
There's a blank screen. Do that again, Dana.
Oh. I just
Oh, well,
deleted
yeah.
mine. But it was there. But it goes to the app.
Okay.
See, it opened the app.
Oh. So Liz doesn't have
Yeah,
anything on
open
her
up the app.
iOS phone. I didn't get the iOS. Nev didn't get it. Why are you guys getting it?
Al got it.
I didn't get it, Jeff.
Dan got it.
Captain.
It only goes to
got
people
one.
that are important.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I don't know what's going on with that. So I put in a trouble ticket to the Good Barber folks. Kind of a weird name for a company that does apps. Anyway, enough of that. So we should probably start the show. So let me start my recording.
Just realized why it's so dark in here. I didn't turn the light on.
Turn the light on, Steph.
That may not have helped. Oh, yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the sun goes down over here, it's going to be really dark in here for me.
Do you have any lamps?
I have one on right next to me, but that's pretty
That'll work.
pathetic.
That'll work.
Do 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 do.
Okay. Let me turn this off for a second.
And silence be with you.
Right. Well, I'm not
But
sure what
also
he's doing.
with you.
Okay. Uh-oh. Sounds different.
All right, so I have a little problem. If I need to get some ice, my camera's on the ice bucket.
Hello.
Well, at least
Yeah.
What is going on?
We don't know.
I don't know what you're doing.
Sorry, if you can hear me,
Yes, we can.
Yes,
something's weird.
We can hear you.
Weird's going on.
Well, you sound perfectly weirdly normal.
you sound normal. Is there anybody out there? Chat room, can you hear us?
Yeah, they can hear us.
Jeff just is frozen in time.
No, I think he's just
Hello.
pondering. Hello.
Are you saying something to me? Anybody?
Yes.
Well, we
I
were.
am. And we are all speaking to you. He's lost his audio somehow, I think.
I don't know what's going on with the audio today. Like earlier before we started, Dana could hear Jeff, but not me or Nick. And then all of a sudden you could hear Nick.
Why is this not
But not me.
working?
That was really.
I think he needs to.
guys
I think he needs to
changed
check
your-
whether his headset's plugged in properly.
The 48.1. Well, you can always text him, right?
I'm not sure what he's referring to when he says it's not working. Not sure if I want
That's
to
not my
know.
headset. Something in audio hijack. Hello.
We
Hello.
can hear you. He's not checking his phone. He just
No,
looked
I'm not
at
getting
it.
any signal at all from you guys.
Really?
Are you
No.
hearing me okay?
Yeah, I hear you just fine.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, let me know if you hear any music from my sound playing app.
Yep.
I hear that. But I'm not hearing you guys. Hello.
Hello.
Loud and clear. Uh-oh.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'm going to stop the music. Okay, it's fading out. Yeah, see, the problem here is that I need to hear you guys. Otherwise, I have no idea what you're saying.
No, I quite understand.
Trim that mustache.
You can hear me.
Nick,
You
that
hear
is
the
a nice
music.
pussy cat you have.
Yes, I know. It's very good. We like it.
The cat looks bored. The cat's like, are we starting this show or what?
It's like, are we going to get on with this or what?
I don't understand.
We can hear you, Jeff.
We could all leave and come back. That seemed to work before, kind of.
Okay, say something.
Hello.
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 Why can't he just check his headphone? I mean, really, that's probably what the problem is.
I know what to do. Gonna drink.
Cheers.
That'll help make me feel better.
Cheers.
Cheers. Nice, Nick.
Oh, Rugger.
That's one of my dogs. That's Rugger.
And Rusty. Yeah.
And yes, very
Yeah.
good.
I love Rugger. He's
How are you
is.
putting up photos? That's what I want to know.
I'm
That's not my
using
headphone.
eyeglasses.
It's the software that I'm using for mixing everything.
Oh no, not your mixer.
It's
Let
not the
me see
mixer,
if
it's the
there's
software.
anything else I can play in Chrome. See if I can hear that.
I think we need to get Nev on just a permanent retainer for help with technical
This is done, huh,
difficulties.
kids?
Yeah, we do actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
what happened to that?
Nev.
We need
that I
to.
had set
We
up?
need just to have Nev trailing Jeff around
gone.
the world.
Let me pull up the Twit network.
That is a very realistic barking sound.
I get compliments on it all the time,
Aw.
especially in a uniform.
Oh
Nev is not available tonight.
no, is that right?
Tragic.
Maybe this is the same problem that we were having before when some of us couldn't hear some of the others.
That's what we've been saying, but you're not listening to us.
So let me do this. Let me leave the... Well, I know what's going to happen, though. If I leave the Hangout, it's going to... I'm not going to be able to start the broadcast. Oh, it's already started. Never mind. Okay. Here, let me just switch something in the settings on the...
I'm going to
Hangout
leave and
window,
come back and
if
see if
that
you can
does
hear me
anything.
when that happens. What do you guys think?
I don't know. Just check with Jeff because
Well, I
we
sent
could
it
do
text.
things one
Hey,
at
I
a
hear
time.
you guys.
Oh.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear
You
you.
hear us? Did
Excellent.
you have us mute or something?
No. It's
Uh-huh.
just when I turned on audio hijack recording, it did something to the input from this Hangout window. Not Chrome completely because I was on another window listening to audio just fine. Okay, looks like we're back in business. Audio sometimes is like voodoo. Audio routing. Just ask Nev and Micah. Okay, guys say something?
Something.
Yeah, hello.
Okay,
Something.
that's enough.
Hello.
Oh boy.
Hello.
Nev is playing with his eyeglasses. Okay.
You gotta teach me how to do that sometime, Nick.
Eyeglasses.
It's a
No.
it's a software program. Anyway.
Oh,
They-
It's going to require more of your computer's CPU. We don't want that.
my CPU is fine. It's the internet damn connection.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's called eyeglasses. I like iPhone. And it's a video interface thing. Okay. So that's recording, this is recording, and this is recording. So now we get to do our clapping.
Yay.
Is everybody ready?
Hey!
Okay, you ready? Oh,
Ready.
I need to hit record first of all.
Well, I've been recording
Yeah,
for
I
like
need
10
to
minutes
record
just
as
in
well.
case.
There we go.
Okay,
I'm
hit
recording.
record.
I'm recording.
Recording.
Yep.
There's Nick
Recording.
hanging out the window. Okay. Remember, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, clap. Okay. No. Now. 1, 2.
Come on, children.
Where were you? Okay. 1, 2, 3, clap. Did somebody really wait 2 seconds before they clap?
No.
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 Or just that the way? It's just
You
that's
said
just the
1,
latency.
2, 3, clap.
So, again, that tells you the latency we're dealing with here. So, whatever. Yeah, that's the best we can do. Okay. So we got YouTube on, and here we go. And I have no idea what we're going to talk about today, but we're going to have fun, whatever we do. Right?
Of course.
Yes, absolutely.
Here we go.
Absolutely.
If you say so, right? Okay. Let me pull up the sound. Come on, computer, you can do it. Oh, don't do the beach ball on me! Damn you!
CPU issues, processing issues much.
Note's going to buy us each a clapper board for Christmas. Isn't
Looking
that
forward
nice?
to it. Yeah.
It doesn't look like my CPU is overloaded. I don't know what's going on. Hang on, let me restart. Not my whole thing, but just this one.
Jeez.
Wow. Thank the Lord.
Don't worry, it's going to come back very quickly, we're hoping.
It's Apple. This is circle of death.
It's better than the blue screen of
That's,
death.
that's the beach ball.
Yeah.
Come on.
So I managed to work out how to set my H5 up as an interface today. It worked very well.
Oh, good.
Excellent.
Well, yeah, you used it before, I thought.
Yeah, but that was just for me. This was using 2 mics and 2 everything.
Oh, okay. Did you actually look at the instructions?
Nah,
Okay.
I just turned it on, plugged everything. Well, I plugged everything in, then turned it on. I've noticed that if you don't do it in the right order, it goes gafut.
Is that a technical term?
Yeah, Nev taught me that term.
Gefut.
Yeah.
That's a German term?
Verklempt is a better term. Verklempt. It's a Yiddish Jewish term.
I like it.
Verklempt.
Excuse me?
Verklempt.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't hear the L. And the M sounded like an N. So,
Verklempt.
okay. For some reason, my Soundbite app is not wanting to play today. It's not coming back. I restarted it, and it's not coming back.
Not coming back.
No, it just left
It's
me
all gone?
completely. Yeah. It says
That's
it's
not
there,
good.
but I don't see a window with it in there, and I don't think I have everything I need to do our intro. Oh, hang on, let me look. Maybe I do on this other one.
Flight 209, you are clear for takeoff.
Yeah, I guess we do. We'll just do it that way. Maybe it will eventually come back. Okay. We're recording, and I'm going to do this. And this. My computer just is not happy. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 292.
Flight 209, you are clear for takeoff. Roger. LA to 123.9. Roger. Request connected.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, a view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 322 in the Hilton Recording Studios in Wilmington, North Carolina. In this episode, Air France Flight 66's number 4 fan and engine inlet separated flight, Elon Musk's city-to-city rocket transportation idea, more news, your feedback, and the latest Plain Tales installment, the Ian Black Interviews, Part 1. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 292 is ready for pushback. Some little elves are playing with my script again, I see. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. And it's an aviation podcast where we talk a little bit about aviation, but most of the time we just fool around and have fun. And joining me today from the Carolinas,
Doctor?
Doctor, a physiatrist,
Doctor?
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 and
Doctor?
marathon runner,
Doctor? Doctor?
strength training junkie, and commercial multi-engine instrument-rated pilot, the most important part of her description, Dr. Steph.
Hello, hello. Good to be back. Sorry I missed the last show. I think we're going to get into all of the reasons why I was not here last week in just a little
No,
bit.
we don't care.
No, we're not. We're just going to move on. Fine.
Yeah, we're over that.
All right, great. Moving on then. Good to be back. Looking forward to a great show this evening.
I didn't even know you were gone. And also joining us from across the pond in the southwest of London area, we have former RAF and R2AF fighter pilot, professional photographer, and currently wide-body captain Nick Anderson.
Well, hello again, Jeff. Great to be back on the show. You know, I don't know, time seems to be going faster. It must be perhaps my age, but it seems we only did a show like 3 days ago. Is that
It
right?
does seem that.
It's
Yeah,
really
it's
weird.
weird. I
isn't
think it must be your age.
it must be. Anyway, lovely to see you again.
Well, it could be that maybe it was only about 3 days ago that we did the show.
Maybe.
And Also joining us from the beaches of the Florida Gulf Coast Panhandle, we have former regional jet pilot, now captain on Acme Airlines, Captain Dana Colton.
Well, good afternoon and good evening and good morning to wherever you guys are listening. Great to be back. And yes, I did enjoy a very nice stay on the beaches of Fort Walton Beach, and looking forward to another fantastic show this evening.
I heard you got the chance to see some sea mammals out there near the beach.
Yeah, Captain Nick was very generous in sharing a very nice photo of a mermaid. And then
I thought you said something about walruses or something.
Well, and I was just going to say, it must be a walrus convention here, because I can tell you, there wasn't. I just want to come back to my room and wash my eyes out with acid, because it wasn't very much to look at.
That's not good.
No,
it's not good at all.
It was terrible. I was looking forward to this overnight so much, but then wow. Hopefully, hopefully Panama City Beach next week will be nicer.
Oh, you're terrible. So where are you, Fort Walton?
Yes, Fort Walton.
Okay, excellent.
Yes, great overnight.
So what have you been up to in the last few days, Dana, other than enjoying the weekend and then starting your trip? I guess, how was your weekend?
Well, the weekend was fantastic. Got another great day of riding on Saturday, and Sunday got to watch my beloved Patriots lose to Cam Newton.
Woohoo!
That was very painful. That was very painful. But you know what? Hey, listen, I got to tell you, we are not looking good this year at all. So it was not fun, but it was a very, very busy weekend. My head was spinning. My wife had some fantastic news over the week, this past week, and she's
divorcing you?
She is divorcing me, yes, and she found a man with a lot of money.
Oh, yay! Congratulations, Julie.
Yes, unbelievable. Yeah, no, she's starting a new job in a couple weeks. So
oh, really?
Very happy for her. Yeah,
nice.
Congratulations.
She's excited about this, I guess.
She is very excited. She went from two weeks. I can't say this, but anyways, I won't say it on air. But she's going for getting some additional benefits, and she's only going to be 6 miles, maybe 5 miles from the house now, versus about 30. So it worked out great. So it was a weekend of celebration, a happy weekend, and we got to enjoy some good friends. Maybe
not so good friends.
Yeah, well, no, I'm dealing with a very sad situation, and those who know about Acme Jr. in Atlanta, they got fired, and he is one of the casualties. And after 19 years, he's going to be pretty much without a job. So,
what?
What do
you mean they got fired?
They got fired. They will no longer be flying for Acme Senior, and Acme Jr. is going to be gone in Atlanta. And they have offered them positions in Houston, Chicago, and New York, I believe, are the positions. But even a 19-year captain is being offered a position as a first officer with an 18-month lock.
What?
At the bottom of the list, yeah. Yeah, it's a really bad situation.
So are those like two separate entities and not all under the same company?
Well, it's Acme Express something. I'm not going to go with the rest of it, but yeah, they're all under one umbrella now. I mean, they're all under the same company when they were purchased. I don't know.
But they have like separate seniority lists.
They do.
Mm.
Oh,
they do.
Okay.
They were never able to work that out. So when Sky something out west purchased Acme Jr. in Atlanta, and then ultimately sold it to Express something Jet. They never merged the list, so he's among many that are in a very bad predicament. And I spent the weekend with him because he hasn't been able to move on. He's one of the guys that's stuck.
Yeah,
doesn't have a college degree, so he's stuck.
So well, at least he's not. I mean, he doesn't have to completely lose his job. I mean, it would be a demotion, of course, but we have some news that we're going to talk about today, which is also sad news for somebody especially that we know in our community. So yeah, it's that's one of the things about this industry. You know, it has its ups and downs, and I'm not making a pun.
No.
Although it would have been a good one. But anyway.
Yeah, so that's, you asked me what I dealt with this weekend. Had a really nice bike ride. Oh, that's what I meant to, and it was...
Anything else, Dana?
Yes, I do have one other thing. I went to this thing called Georgia Jets. Now, I didn't put out a meetup on it because I had never been there, but Georgia Jets is a remote control jets. So it was an unbelievable day of watching all these military jets, and they even had a UPS DC-10. All these, you know, probably about 6 to 8 foot model aircraft that are remote radio control. Unbelievable day. So I think next year when it happens in September, I'll go ahead and put up meet up on it. And it was
I think I'm
really
going to be busy that weekend.
Yeah. Okay.
Nothing.
Good for you. So that's the other thing we went to this week, and it was unbelievable.
Wow, that sounds interesting. Very cool.
Yeah,
Did you take some pictures and stuff?
I do have some pictures.
Of course, you recorded some audio describing your time there, and no,
well,
I guess you didn't. Okay, well, moving on. Let's see, Captain Nick. How have you been doing?
Well, in the 3 days before we last chatted, let me think. I have not been feeling particularly well, so I have.
You look like hell, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I've coughed and sputtered my way through a few days, and that's about it. Of course, we're going to talk about it, but I was doing my best to try and help out Captain Al, because he's in a bit of a predicament at the moment. Apart from that, nothing much has been going on. I did an interview today, which is in the Plain Tale, so that has been a very fast turnaround of that. My thanks to Ian Black for accommodating me. No, I've just been looking forward to this show. I'm going to tell him I'm fit in a couple of hours, and then tomorrow morning I'm back on standby.
Excellent. Maybe they'll get some work out of you for a change.
No, it'll never.
Okay. Looking forward to the interview later in the show. And now I guess we need to talk to Steph and what she's been doing.
I haven't done anything, so don't worry.
Okay. Well, no, wait a minute. Apparently you recorded something for... Oh, never mind. You didn't record anything at the meetup for us. So what have you been doing?
You mean we're going to talk to I can't say it. Sushi Steph? Or is it sashimi Steph?
What we need to do is we need to start with Berlin, because
yes, we'll start at the beginning. Yeah. So last time I actually talked to you guys on the show was 2 weeks ago exactly, right? The 19th was when we did whatever episode that was, 290 maybe. And I left early.
No, wait. You came to us live from Tillman's place in Berlin. Oh, no, never mind. That wasn't our show.
That wasn't us. That was another show, Jeff.
I'm going to explain
go ahead. I'm sorry.
how everything worked out. So hold on for a second. Good grief.
Like if she'd been only like 2 hours earlier, she could have come live to our show.
Well, the timing just
didn't
work out. So.
Very hurt.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I did talk to you guys on the 19th. I was here. I squeezed in a little bit of time before I had to go to the airport. So
yeah,
that was very good. And I took a very roundabout way of getting to Germany, which was my first stop, mostly because of time constraints. And I didn't want to spend a lot of money to fly to Europe, because apparently can be very expensive out of Charlotte. So I flew with Turkish.
It looks like you flew some nice nice business class travel. Okay,
and that actually would have those flights actually cost me less than it cost me would have cost me to fly with only one stop between Charlotte and Berlin. So instead I picked a flight that had 2 stops, and it left later in the day because I thought maybe I would work in the morning, but I didn't end up doing that, so it doesn't matter. But flew with Turkish Airlines, flew business class with them, but stopped in Toronto and Istanbul. So it's kind of a long day of flying, but really very, very nice flights with them. I was really pretty impressed. Got into Berlin, and Fabian was already in Berlin. and he was at the airport doing some plane spotting, which actually worked out great. So I met up with him as soon as I got off the plane, and I said that was great because he knew kind of the bus system at least a little better than I did. He's not from Berlin, but at least he speaks German, so that was helpful. So we actually just took a bus down to where my hotel was, and then we went out and had a drink and called it an early evening. And on actually the next day, Private Pilot Tillman, who's one of our APG community members, was very, very generous, and he took us out flying in his Piper Archer that he has access to out of this really, really cool old East German Soviet era airfield with these hangars that look like bunkers, basically. They're kind of covered in grass, so you can't see them from the sky. They have these originally they had these really, really thick hangar doors that I think were 2 feet or 2 meters or something ridiculous thick, and were on railroad tracks to open. So just a really, really neat place to see. And we actually got to plan out and take a VFR flight all over Berlin. So basically we overflew the 2 major airports there and then kind of circumnavigated the city and back to the airport where we started. So that was a really, really awesome day, and I can't thank Tillman enough for taking us out. So, and then Tillman comes back into the equation because the next evening he hosted a meetup for us at his brewery, which is part of the hostel, which he's a part owner of. And I am sorry, I didn't take any recording equipment with me, nothing. So I wasn't really planning on doing a whole lot of anything. But there were.
Well, you told us you were going to do a bunch.
Did I tell you? No, yeah. I said I was going to do a bunch of.
You built it up.
I said I was going to do a bunch of crew logs.
Oh, that's right.
Which I've started some of them.
Okay.
I got
misinterpreted. You know,
so
the thought is all that matters.
That's right. That's right. I had good intentions.
Isn't there a road to somewhere?
Yes, it's paved with good intentions. I'm well aware. But so at the meetup, I'm going to run through the list of names because there's actually quite a big turnout. So we had Andreas. I don't want to forget him because I forgot him when I did my crew log recording about this. I thought I'd gotten everyone, but there's always someone that escapes me. So I apologize, Andreas, you were there. Brian, who is from the U.S., Will, who is also from the U.S., Henry, who is from Berlin, Steve from Ireland, Masha from the Netherlands, Fabian, who I've already mentioned, David from New Zealand. At the moment, I can't remember why he was in Berlin. And then, of course, Tillman and his sister-in-law and brother-in-law. His sister-in-law was also there to run the marathon in Berlin. And then my friend Jessica, who was there to run the marathon, and my dad. So we had quite a turnout. And they actually brewed a special beer for the occasion, which was fantastic. He named it the Dr. Steph's conversion training special or something along those lines.
How was it?
Right. It was really good. There was
Very
a
catchy name.
yeah. What's that?
Very
Did you save us
catchy
some?
I think there is still some left. You have to go to Berlin to try it,
Oh,
unfortunately.
no problem.
Yeah, just a quick stopover.
Next layover.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
we're airline pilots. It shouldn't actually be a problem.
Right. No, it was really a fantastic beer. We consumed a lot of it.
I thought you were going to say. I thought you said you're going to be do it in moderation because you had a race within 48 hours.
Yeah. We'll not go there. But and then I should also mention. I'm forgetting one very important person who was at the meetup. Owen, from Harpjet Airlines.
Oh wow!
And so he was there.
Oh,
and
Ian.
He was in. Yeah, Ian. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just kidding.
So he was in touch with the Plane Talking UK guys, and he said, "Hey, they're going to be starting their show right about the time we start the meetup. Would you mind if they called in and we could just, say hi with everyone?" So that's how that happened. So it was very.
I
nice.
really am not hurt. I think that was very cool that you were able to do that live with
So
them.
there is
I'm just
video out there.
pretending
You
that
just
I'm-
have to go to the wonderful Plane Talking UK podcast. I think
Exactly. That's what we said last time.
180.
If you want to hear Stephanie in the meetup in Berlin, then you need to go over to PTUK.
Exactly. So that was great. The next morning I ran a breakfast run, which was like 6K. I made it.
You weren't expecting to do that though, right?
Not really. My friend Karen that I was there with was like, "We're running this breakfast run in the morning." I was like,
Say what?
"Oh, good." You'll notice Karen did not make it to the meetup. She slept. So she felt great in the morning. I felt good enough to run 6K. And really cool run though, because it ended at the old Olympic Stadium. the one that was used for the 1936 Olympics. That was really neat to see. It's an amazing stadium. It's in really good shape considering the age of it and the year it was used. And I think they use it for World Cup football, soccer stuff now too as well, if I am thinking correctly. But then the main event in Berlin was the marathon on Sunday. So got up, ran the marathon, really nice conditions other than it was overcast. It was kind of muggy. It had been kind of drizzling on and off in the morning, but the temperature was cool. So it was actually perfect for me. I don't mind a little bit of rain or drizzle while running that kind of distance. Had a goal time of 4 hours and 30 minutes, which is not my personal best time, but considering I'm going to be running another marathon this coming Sunday, I didn't want to. I'm looking for consistency at this point, making it through it. So came in right at 4:27, 4 hours 27 minutes, right
good.
on target. So I was pretty happy with that. I felt good at the end of it.
Yay!
Yeah, I was pretty
Congratulations!
excited.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd
It
still
is
be
awesome,
running
truly.
if I were in the marathon.
Still be running. No. You guys could all make it through a marathon. I guarantee.
They would have been there with the heart. What's that thing that
The
starts your heart up
defibrillator?
again?
Yeah.
Are
For
you
me,
eating
especially.
something, Dana?
Yes.
Are you going to share it with all of us?
God,
was
he
a piece
is.
of
He's
ice,
sharing
I'm
it with
sorry.
us right now.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. It was a piece of ice.
All right. So I've still got half the trip to tell you about.
Keep
Let
going
me
there.
keep going.
Keep going.
So getting back to some aviation related stuff, I finished the marathon, got on, I went back to the hotel, packed up my stuff immediately and went to the airport because I had a flight to catch to London for the evening, where I was met at the airport by Sir Neville Bounds. And he picked me up and we went out to dinner with, it was Nev, Pilot Pip, and Adam Spink. And we had a very nice curry dinner, not too far from the airport. It was nice to see those guys, and I appreciate them coming out because it was kind of late by the time I got in. I don't think we started eating dinner until about 9 o'clock. Went back to the hotel, slept for about 6 or 7 hours, I think. And then I had a flight in the morning to Tokyo, with a stop in Abu Dhabi on Etihad. And that was an amazing experience because I had already booked a business class flight, which wasn't terribly expensive given the distance that I was going. And there was a bid offer to upgrade to a first class seat. So I put in the minimum bid because I was like, why not? Spoiling myself a little bit this entire trip. Plus, I just ran a marathon, and the more space I can have to get up and move around, the better.
You deserve it.
So anyway, my minimum bid was accepted for a first class flight
Whoa!
for the first segment. There weren't any upgrades available for the second segment, but a 7-hour flight, I'll take a first class upgrade. Not a bad deal. And if you guys have it, if those of you listening out there have not seen or heard of these first class quote unquote apartments that they have on the A380 with some of these Middle Eastern carriers, oh my goodness, it was the most lavish, crazy thing I've ever seen. I mean, you could fit like 3 people in this space if you wanted to.
One of me.
Could you fit 3 people in the shower?
Maybe 2. It'd be really cozy though.
Yes, I did say shower, folks.
Yes.
I saw the pictures of the shower.
Get on the plane, ogle over just the entire setup because it's one big seat, which is like your main seat that you have to be in for takeoff, landing, all that stuff, seatbelt. And then there's a couch, and the couch actually opens up into a bed, which is much larger than any bed I've ever seen on, bigger than the usual just lay flat business class seats or anything like that. You have your own little mini fridge that's stocked, and when you get on the plane, the chef comes up and says, "What time would you like lunch?" or "What do you want from the menu? We'll bring it whatever time you tell us to." So that was pretty nice. I was like, "Well, I'm going to sleep for like 2 hours, and then I'd like lunch." And then they said, "Would you like to book the shower?" And I said, "Yes, of course I would like to book the shower." So yeah, on the plane, there's actually a shower for the first class cabin, and they book it in half-hour segments. And I got my time set up for about an hour and a half before we landed. And I figured that'd give me enough time to shower, get, myself back together and be back in my seat before we're making our descent and landing and all of that. They give you about 5 minutes worth of water time. So there's a little push button start and stop. So that was nice. So you don't have to get in and just take a quick 5-minute shower. You can actually, shampoo, condition your hair, all that good stuff.
What do you do for the other 25 minutes then?
Well, so maneuvering,
soap
it's still a aircraft lavatory. It's really not that large. So a lot of it, for me at least, was trying to okay, I'm going to turn around here. I'm going to hang my clothes up over here and the towel over here. And then I have to turn around again and, get my sock off. And I'm trying to not fall over in the lab. So
Wasn't it weird to be naked on an airplane?
nah, I don't
No?
know. Not really. I'm just
I
taking
do
a
it all
shower.
the time. Oops.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
It's
I
a
will
little
say
embarrassing for the first officers, of course.
Yeah.
they didn't want to say anything, but
But those mad dogs get pretty hot, Jeff.
They do.
So anyway, yeah, I mean, that was the fastest 7-hour flight I've ever been on. It was like, oh, we're here already? I was just, starting to enjoy everything I have to take in here. So if you get the chance, it's not cheap, but I did it much cheaper than the actual listed fare with the upgrade. So if it's ever offered and you want to spoil yourself a little bit, give it a try and see. And then, the other perk that came with that was the access to the first class lounge in Abu Dhabi. So I had a chance to run in there and grab a 15-minute back massage and then catch my next flight to Tokyo, which was a 9-hour flight on a Dreamliner in business class. And I slept the entire way. I was so relaxed at that point. I just passed out. Next thing I knew, we were in Tokyo. And I was good to go for the day. So
Excellent.
yeah, that was a lot.
Jealous.
Gosh, what do I even say about Tokyo? I can keep going forever. You can cut me off and I can do a part 2 next week if you want.
No.
Okay. All right. I'll continue then.
We have plenty of time.
Sure. Yeah. We've
We
got
want to
another
hear you talk. We haven't heard you talk in a while.
2 hours. So, so Tokyo, I had just about 5 days total in Tokyo. I was there to meet up with friends and a friend who lives there, a mutual friend of ours. So I flew into Narita and my other friends were flying into Haneda, and we were only getting in about 2 hours apart. So my friend that lives there, her name is also Steph. So just to make things confusing, Steph went to go pick up the other friends at Haneda, and she gave me very detailed instructions on what bus to take and what train to take to get to the train station by her house, and she would pick me up there, assuming that we could kind of just coordinate the times. So I was our flight was early. I was the first one off the plane. I was through immigration and custom, found the bus, got on the bus, took the bus across Tokyo, which was a almost 1.5 hour long ride, 2-hour ride. Got to the train station, and she had told me which platform I could use, and any of those trains would go to the station that she lived nearby. So I got on a train, and then I realized that I wasn't recognizing any of the next stops that I was supposed to be seeing. So I sent her a quick text, and she goes, oh, shoot, I forgot. There's one train that does not go the right direction. So I managed the one train. So I was okay, no big deal. It wouldn't be, an international travel adventure if I didn't take an incorrect train at some point. So got off, went back to the other station, got back on the correct train. So
just a minor hiccup.
Got to the train station, and I didn't realize this, but especially in Tokyo, I guess most of the main train stations are also just these big commercial shopping centers and malls. So got off the train, walked into the mall area, found a Starbucks, sat down, tried to record a crew log. It didn't turn out very well because the audio quality was not very good. Then I couldn't get it uploaded anyway, so it didn't really matter. But sat there for about an hour, still no word from anyone else, and finally ended up taking a taxi cab over to Steph's house because apparently my friends, when they got off the plane, they made a tactical error, which they readily admitted to. They got off near the front of a full 777, and then they went to the bathroom.
Uh-oh.
So meanwhile,
hold it in.
Oh, wow.
Went ahead of them to immigration and customs, and they went to the back of the line of however many people got off the plane, pretty much. So
Rookie mistake.
They readily admitted it. So it took them a very long time to get back to Steph's house. But that was all good. We spent a very nice night catching up, having a little bit of wine. I think all of us woke up at 2:30 in the morning for no good reason other than jet lag. And but that was really the only night I had trouble with jet lag. Every other night I did okay. And then we spent a couple nights out in Tokyo together, just doing all the crazy things you can imagine doing in Tokyo. Not necessarily anything aviation related, but lots of good food, good these tiny little bars that we would go into.
Massage with happy endings?
We did not partake.
No? Okay.
And
Dana,
then
where is your mind?
right.
Massages.
Okay, we know where your mind is.
And then I had about a day and a half on my own in Tokyo, or in the Tokyo area. So I actually took a day trip by myself down to Kamakura and I forget the other.
Kama.
That's Culture Club, I think.
Oh.
Boy George, yeah, similar.
Yeah.
Sounds similar. But anyway, I really enjoyed that trip. It was a cool little town with a big temple and a giant Buddha that you could go see, and then another little side trip to an island called Enoshima. And just lots of interesting things to hike around and see, all kinds of interesting foods to try, the best sushi I've ever had in my life. Then it was time to go home, and that was Sunday. Flew home with American Airlines because it was the most direct route I could get at that point. 777 and then an A321. So, yeah, and here I am.
Wow.
I'm back.
So did you go completely around the world then?
Yes.
Wow.
All the way
That's
around.
cool.
Wow. That's amazing.
It was a
What does
great
the
trip.
backside of the world look like, Steph?
It's dark. No, I'm just kidding. There's less light. No. It looks the same.
Much better than your backside, that's for sure.
Glad to hear that.
Wow.
All right.
Oh, boy.
But no, it was fantastic.
Wow.
And thanks again to everyone who came out in Berlin because that was really something special. And yeah.
Yeah, I kind of lived vicariously through your social media tweets and stuff, and looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was
Thanks
great.
for sharing all that.
And I sat in vain waiting for a crew log, but there you go.
I have excuses for that too. There's a few more up now. But
Yep.
yeah. I still have more to record.
All right. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you're back.
Now the
safe and
show's over.
sound, and-
Have a good night.
No, I guess
I know.
that means that, like for the next probably several weeks to months, you're not doing a thing, right?
Yeah, so on Friday this week, I'm leaving to go to Chicago
What?
because I have to
What are you
run
going to do there, Steph?
Going to run a
Run
marathon.
a marathon?
Yep.
Really?
Why, actually?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. The 40th anniversary or the 40th Chicago Marathon is this Sunday, the 8th of October, and I will be there for that. So, looking forward to it.
Excellent. How are your toes doing?
Toes are great. Yeah, my legs feel like I went out for a run when I was in Tokyo. I did about 5 miles. That felt good. I've done so much walking over the past week. There was one day in Tokyo I walked like 14 miles when I was by
Good
myself
Lord.
going on. Yeah. So, but I feel pretty good.
So before we started recording today, we were talking about my quote unquote new diet. I'm trying the low carb thing, trying to lose some of my gut, and that means I can't drink beer. Sorry, Dr. John Brown, who brought all those IPAs from Toronto. I guess I'm going to have to give all of them to Steph. I know she's going
Excellent.
to hate that.
That's terrible news. Tragic.
And she goes, "Well, I eat all this stuff, and I don't gain any weight." And I said, "Yeah, but you were like walk and run 300 miles a day or something like that. So I can't do that. I'm old." And so
Nonsense.
Anyway, so we'll see how long this lasts. You know me, I start things and then I kind of quit them pretty quickly. But anyway, what else was I going to say? I'm on a 5-day trip. I normally don't do these, but this one's kind of really more like a 4-day with a little bit of something on the first part. So last night flew here to Wilmington, North Carolina, which is a beautiful city in North Carolina on the East Coast, and got in at a decent hour. It was just barely dark when we landed. It was a little after 8. And I've been here all day, and then I start flying again tomorrow. End up in, where do I end up? In Wichita, and pretty early in the day, before noon. And then Thursday, I'll be in the Canton, Akron area. So if you're listening to my voice right now, We are planning to get together with a couple of other APG community members sometime, I think, in the afternoon. James Balch and Captain Rick Bell, at least two, and I'm going to have to contact Paul to see if he's going to be available as well. And we'll, if you're in that area and you're listening to us right now, by the time I publish this podcast, though, it'll probably be history. But if you're watching this live or watching the video, check us out. Slack is probably the best way to do it. And follow me on Twitter, APG Crew and Airline Pilot Guy. So looking forward to that. I told everybody I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do a meetup because we weren't sure exactly when we were going to be recording today's show, but we're doing it today, Tuesday, the 3rd of October. Let's see, what else? Anything else? It was a quick weekend. Watched the... you all have turned me into a Formula One race.
Oh, you enjoyed the Grand Prix?
I do. You know, in fact, now I try to watch NASCAR, and I can't watch it anymore. You guys have ruined me for NASCAR. Now I watch Formula One.
Left turns are just so.
Thank you a lot for that.
passe.
Oh, well, you're welcome.
I know.
At least they turn left occasionally.
Yeah, they turn left and right. Anyway, so enjoyed that race, the Malaysia race. And what else? I was only home for a couple of days before I'm back out on the trip, so here I am. And looking forward to talking about some news and your feedback. Anything else we want to talk about before we move to the coffee fund? Got everybody, right? I didn't forget anybody?
Nope.
All good.
Okay.
All good.
Very good.
We're good.
Let's go to the coffee fund then. Nope, you're not supposed to say that yet. You're supposed to do this first.
Do what first?
The Tweety birds around your head.
Yeah, we can't hear anything.
Oh, you don't hear it?
Something. No.
Oh, good thing, because it's a catastrophe. Let's see. Let me make sure that we can turn that on and you can hear it. Now, tell me if you can hear this, because it looks like Soundbite finally came back. Maybe.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
You hear that?
Yeah, we can hear
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, here we go.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee, I love tea, I love the VG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. Okay, why? Why in the world am I playing the Java Jive? That is a good question. It's because this is where we talk about the Coffee Fund. And the Java Jive is a perfect song to serenade us while I tell you about the way that you can support us. And that is by being a Coffee Fund cadre member, a contributor via the Coffee Fund. And information about it is found at the airlinepilotguy.com website, airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. And the preferable method now is to become a patron via patreon.com. All the information is available on the website. Since the last episode, we have one person who used the classic method via PayPal, Richard Adams. Thank you, sir, for your generous contribution to the fund. And let's see, we have a new producer at Patreon, and his name, David Swarthout. I probably mispronounced that, so sorry, David. But thank you very much for becoming a member of Patreon and the Coffee Fund cadre. Why would you want to do this? Well, if you have the financial resources to do so, you can be part of the production of this program because you're supporting us directly with financial means. And the other thing is a little perk that we put out, these crew logs that we talk about occasionally. And we hope to be doing more of these in the future. And as I mentioned on the last program, to get the crew logs now, from this point going forward, you need to be a member of Patreon. So for everyone who is a contributed via either the classic method or Patreon, thank you so much. It would be very difficult to do the show without your support. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. Boy. And while I have your attention, you watching the video, I would like to say and a list of names here who are the top 3 levels of financial contributions. We'll start with the executive producer level. Jason DeLuzio, he's one of our new ones. Mick McCarthy, Jordan Rose, Clinton Baker, Tanya Wyman, Nico Rager, Eric Mellenthan, Rob Simmons, Dispatcher Mike. Yeah, he's the host of a great podcast, Flying and Life. Justin Williams, Eric Graves, Robert Fairburn, Dr. Bo Abrahamson, Christopher Kilmick, Justin Breeze, Trevor Moody, Joe Driver, David Collier, Bill Bates, Steve Nass, George Nolly, another host of another great podcast, ready for takeoff. Let's see, where was I? Ken Hayes, Randall Shepard, David Mullineau, Richard Miller, Larry Gregory, Zebulon Dawson, Jonathan Turfbor, Liz Piper, Chris and Tanya Weitzel, Andrew Espig, Stephen Wisniewski, and Adrian Meacham, and Jim G. And the next level up is our special group of 6 who are in the associate executive producers level. And they are Mike Clark, Eduardo Soares, Stephen Ward, Neville Bounds, Michael Benson, Robert Wolf. And the top tier, we have 2 special people in our senior executive producer level, and that is Lucas Diamond, the Flying Kiwi, and the guy that has been doing this the very longest. That's probably not proper grammar, sorry. Asa Armin in the beautiful British Columbia town of Vancouver town. It's a big city. Beautiful place, and Asa is a beautiful person. So thank you, all of you, for your wonderful contributions via Patreon. And now, it's time for the news.
Stand by for news.
Okay, I think the big news in the last few days was an incident. An Air France Airbus 380 had some trouble with one of its engines. Let's take a listen.
An Air France flight over the Atlantic has been forced to make an emergency landing in Canada after a technical issue with one of the plane's engines. Photos posted online show part of a turbine peeled back, but it's not clear how bad the damage actually is. The flight left Paris, headed for Los Angeles this morning. Air France said flight AF66 made a safe landing in Goose Bay in Labrador, where technical checks are going to be carried out. Alternative arrangements for passengers are being made, although getting people on the plane was reportedly a problem, as the airport didn't have stairs big enough for a plane of that size. All right, one of the passengers on board that plane, Sarah Amy, joins us now to talk about what happened. Sarah, thanks for joining us. What time was this, and what did you see and hear?
It was probably about 4 hours ago that actually occurred. And basically what had happened is that we heard a loud pop, and we had a quick descent along with some vibration. It definitely was not turbulent, so we knew something was wrong. And from there, we were able to recover, the captain was able to recover the plane quite fast. However, we were definitely nervous because the vibrating was probably occurring a good 5 to 8 minutes. And then the captain basically 10 minutes, 15 minutes after provided an announcement stating that we had a small engine explosion.
An engine explosion, that would make me a little bit nervous. How are you feeling?
Very nervous. I travel a lot, and I knew it was something different than just normal turbulence. So it was definitely scary. Someone had a little loud yelp, but we were basically all white knuckling it, praying for the best. So.
Let me ask you, we're looking at the photo of someone who's obviously sort of on board and looking outside and clicked a photo of the plane and the damage that was done. It's hard to tell. Was there a fire? Did you smell any smoke, or was it an explosion and then that was it?
It was an explosion in the vibration. I'm on the left side of the plane, and the right side, there were definitely people that were looking at it. No smoke smell per se. The exit sign was flashing, which was definitely a little scary. And then you see the crew going back and forth, probably taking pictures, of course, for traffic control or something to that nature.
All right. You're on the ground now. What's next for you?
We're waiting. We're waiting for an update. We've been on the ground now for about 2 hours. So it's a very small airport, and we're hoping we get home at some point.
Are you from Los Angeles?
I am.
Okay, so
I was trying to get home.
You're on your way home. Have they given
Correct.
you an update as to when they're going to be able to get you guys off and loaded back, headed towards LA?
Unfortunately not. We have not received any update probably in the last hour or more.
Wow.
So we are trying to just basically wait in the airplane and see where we're going to go from here. But there's no other aircraft that we see anywhere near this airport. So
Not sure on the timeline.
Pretty much.
All right. Sarah Amy is joining us. She's a passenger who was on board that Air France flight that came down and landed suddenly, made an emergency landing in Labrador. Sarah Amy, thank you for joining us. Good luck to you. I hope you get out sooner than later.
Thank you so much.
That was from the CTV. I guess that's Canadian television. I think that's what that stands for. And I love the way she pronounced turbine. So it's like a combination of turbine and turbine. Turbine.
Except it was a compressor, but don't worry about that.
Yeah, well, whatever. Yeah, they're all sort of like turbines.
The turbines
right?
at the other end of the engine, or it's something you wear in your head.
Are you expecting these journalists to know the difference? Come on. Anyway, the lady that she interviewed was actually still on the airplane, and of course she was using her Apple earbuds, and that's why you could hear that little, scraping against her top. Anyway, so yeah, this is kind of a big deal. This, although it really doesn't really happen that often, but the number 4, as Captain Nick so rightly said, the compressor and fan. And basically the front third of the engine just blew off in flight.
Yeah, what a lot of people don't know is there's a little butterfly nut on the front. And when you take that cone off, there's a butterfly nut we check when we do the walk around. And if that butterfly nut comes unscrewed during the flight, then the whole front of the engine flies off. And that's probably what happened.
Wait a minute.
So how do you check a nut off in a pre-flight?
Well, it's pretty complicated walk around.
I mean, really?
Don't you check your
How exactly do you accomplish that?
I always check my nuts before we fly.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
how do you check your nuts on the walk around?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that Captain Nick is kidding us a bit.
Just a
bit. Yeah.
It looks like a shaft failure.
I bet that they wish they had checked that butterfly.
It looks like a shaft failure, and the front few stages fell off. So there you go.
Yeah,
took a bit of the cowling with it, but that's just frangible, stuff.
Well, it's better to be salted than roasted nuts.
There you go. The crew obviously lost an engine. Whether they lost any ancillary systems, I did see a few dinks on the leading edge flaps, the slats, obviously caused by a little bit of debris that probably flew past. But it looks like they got everything dangling for the approach satisfactorily. So I guess as far as the crew was concerned, the pilots, it was a relatively straightforward 3-engine approach.
Apparently, the thing was still dropping pieces as they landed because they said they had to close the runway for a while to pick up
Well, I
some
suspect
stuff.
there was a certain amount of debris just jammed in the front of the engine, and as they slowed down, so the airspeed there that was holding it in place, it would have just fallen out on the floor. So
that makes sense. Yeah. I have to take exception with the passenger's comment that Goose Bay is a dinky airport. It's not that small of an airport. In fact, I've been to Goose Bay many times, as the Air Force uses, the U.S. Air Force uses that base quite a bit for staging and doing missions and operations over to Europe and Greenland.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm
Iceland.
sure, just in reference to the amount of passenger travel.
Not a lot of passenger traffic,
no. And especially if you're from LA, used to going to airports that are.
Well, it's not Los Angeles International Airport, that's for sure.
Exactly.
I'll give you that.
Not
I'll give you that.
But it is a very common Atlantic diversion airport. So always, if we're doing a route that's going somewhere like LA or San Fran, almost always we'll have Goose as our first diversion on the Canadian side.
She was saying that they had already been there for a couple of hours waiting to hear something about how they were going to continue their journey to Los Angeles, and 2 flights were dispatched to Goose Bay to pick up the passengers and take them there. An Air France Boeing 777-300 and an airline that I've never heard of, Nolinor, Nolinor, 737-300 was used as well to take the passengers to their final destination of Los Angeles. So the Canadian TSB reported that they have dispatched a team of investigators to Goose Bay to collect evidence and assess the occurrence.
So I think this happened. When did this happen? On Saturday? I believe it was Saturday.
So
on Saturday, I was still in Japan, and I was also traveling to LAX. These people spent probably 12 hours on the ground there before I left Japan, and I still managed to get to LA before one of their replacement flights. Just to tell you how long they were
Steph, for the win.
on the ground over there. I mean, that's a heck of a long time to be delayed.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
Especially for California people, because the world revolves around them. You know how that goes.
Yep. I'm one of those people, and I understand.
No offense to our
no
California
offense taken.
listeners.
Trust me,
Yeah.
no offense taken at all.
I
agree with you, actually.
The Goose didn't have steps, because the lower deck is not much higher than a conventional airliner.
That was a dubious comment.
You gotta be careful how low that door hangs.
I think I read somewhere that said, well, that really wasn't true. They do have air stairs that can service this size airplane.
Does it have to do more with customs or immigration problems?
I would imagine.
Yeah. Making an unplanned stop in a country that you weren't planning on being in.
Yeah, that sounds more reasonable to me.
And also, they may not have very sophisticated facilities for 300 people just arriving out of nowhere. It might be more comfortable for them on the plane, so that's what they decided to do. Yeah,
the facilities they have there are the dormitories that we used to stay in when I was in the military. And for us, we're kind of used to those kind of accommodations. For your average passenger, no.
Yeah, you'd be better off in a nice comfy seat on a nice warm airplane.
Yep. All right, let's see. Some tragic news here in the United States. Just 2 days ago, some wacky psycho started killing dozens. What was the last count I think I saw was 59. Killed 59 people at a country western music concert in Las Vegas. And he was firing from the Mandalay Bay Hotel, 32nd floor. More than 500 people injured. And the reason why it's somewhat aviation related is that the Mandalay Bay and where this event was taking place is right next to the Las Vegas International Airport. One of our listeners, Richard Nash, wrote us today. Hi all, I'm watching a video from Bass Aviation on YouTube. It's the Las Vegas Tower during the shooting. the tower controller holding all departures but clearing everything to land. Every time an aircraft calls up their position, he replies with wind calm, runway 26 left, clear to land. There must have been 3 to 4 aircraft in front of each plane that is cleared to land, so how does that work? Is it the pilot's responsibility to keep an eye out for when the aircraft in front clears the runway? In the UK, the tower would say something like, number 3, continue approach, and then they would get the clear to land call when the runway is clear. It'd be great to hear you and Nick discuss the differences between US and UK procedures. Love the show and all that, blah, blah, blah. Thank you. Thank you, Richard. That was heartfelt. It checks me up a little bit. Blah, blah, blah. Yada, yada, yada. So I pulled up this video, and I'm starting at about the 5-minute point. And when I heard about this tragedy, I didn't even think about the fact that the airport's right there and how it would have affected and did affect the arrivals and departures there. And let me play just a little bit of it because I think it's kind of interesting. And we're going to answer Richard's question, but we're also going to talk a little bit more about this whole thing.
Legion 487, left base, the final 13 out for 26 left.
Legion 487, Las Vegas Tower, winds calm, runway 26 left, clear to land.
Clear land 26 left, Legion 487.
Any county mobile vehicles, I need to talk to you. All right, I need an update on any individuals on the airport. Were they armed? Like, was it armed or was it people trying to escape the situation across the street?
Tower, Southwest 1738, hold 26 left.
Southwest 1738, Las Vegas Tower, winds calm, runway 26 left, clear to land.
Clear to land, 26 left, Southwest 1738.
Southwest 3497, the plan is to depart you and turn you immediately south as soon as you're airborne. Can you handle it?
Yeah, just as long as the runway is secure.
Yeah, the runway's clear and secure. You'll see when you get out there, there's a situation out to the west, and I do want you to depart. I want you on your way, but I don't want you straight out to the west. I think south turnout would be the best.
Sounds good to us. Southwest 3497.
All right, Southwest 3497, only 26 right, line up and wait, and it'll be 190 heading and maintaining 7,000.
190 heading, 7,000, line up and wait, runway 36 right, Southwest 3497.
County Mobile 8 or any County Mobile on frequency. I'm just confirming here the intersection of 26 right and the 19s are clear for use for departures. Okay, what do you think about 26 left?
Says appears to be safe.
Roger. Southwest 3497, continue holding. We are just double checking that runway, making sure it's clear.
Southwest 3497 will hold. Tower Mobile 7 request to proceed on 26 left and 26 left.
Mobile 7, I think it was, proceed on runway 26 right and runway 26 left. Your discretion. Southwest 3497, I got to update the, there's some personnel on one of the upper levels of the Mandalay Bay, so departing might be a bit dangerous. And we still got a few minutes for the runway check here, and we may not be landing anymore here for the next few hours. So let me know what you want to do.
Okay. I will put the link to this entire video in the show notes. And the nice thing about what VAS Aviation does with their video or videos is they put a lot of helpful graphics, and you can kind of see here they've taken the time to show the picture of the airport, the Mandalay Bay Hotel, the area where the concert took place, and they've highlighted it with, you know, various colors and everything else. And I mean, it is pretty much absolutely right next to the runway 19 and 1s at the airport, although most of the activity for the airliners were using 26 left, 26 right. But
kind of taking off in the direction of the Strip and Mandalay Bay, like directly. I mean, it was
Right.
farther to the south, but still in that general direction.
Yeah, and so like when this whole thing starts, I started about the 5-minute point, but at the very beginning, it starts off with the tower saying that there is an active shooter on the runways. It's like, excuse me? So they didn't know exactly what was happening. They just heard, it was chaos, obviously. Nobody knew what was going on. And they said that they thought at first that something was happening, an active shooter actually on the airport property itself. And then I guess they finally figured out that this was happening on the Strip. But that was an interesting one. Yeah, it might be a little bit dangerous, so I suggest that you turn to the left when you take off. And I can imagine the conversation in that Southwest cockpit, like, excuse me, what is going on? Somebody's firing, weapons out of the 32nd floor of a high-rise hotel? I don't think so.
Well,
anyway,
it's kind of one of those situations where, if there's not a lot of information, you don't know where the actual danger is occurring. Is it more dangerous to stay on the ground, or is it more dangerous to get the heck out of town as fast as possible?
I don't know.
In this case, it sounds like, maybe it was just luck that they ended up as far away on the airport property as they could have from where things were occurring. And then they ended up at least staying for the moment. So,
yeah, I think shortly after, I didn't listen to the entire recording, but I think at some point they finally say, okay, forget it. The airport's closed. Nobody's arriving and nobody's departing anymore. Now yes, Dana.
Oh, continue, Jeff. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, please.
No, I mean, I just want to, Richard asked a very specific question about every time an aircraft calls up their position, he replies with windcom runway 26 left and clear to land, whereas he's comparing to, over in UK. At this point, more than likely, the air traffic controllers on the final approach controllers have cleared that aircraft for a visual approach. So thus, yes, they are really involved with making sure that they have visual confirmation with the airport, with the traffic in front of them. So they are indeed responsible for maintaining a visual separation if they've been cleared for a visual approach. Whereas if you're over in the UK, would say number 3, which would indicate to me that that person is still, or that aircraft is still on an instrument approach until they are cleared to land. So just answering Richard's specific question, and I just want to put that in there.
I think that the answer is actually more simple than that, Dana. When you watch this video, right at the beginning it says that the video and audio has been edited and shortened for content. So the space, the amount of time between these airplanes coming in, and if you listen to the video earlier than where I started, several airplanes are coming in and landing on 26 left. And I think that the person that did this video just compressed it, as I do a lot of times when I play audio on this show. So I think that there was a lot more time between these arrivals. Number 2, whether they were on a visual or an instrument approach, because Dana and I know that in Atlanta, flying the precision radar monitored approaches, the PRM approaches, we could be number 3 or 4 and still be cleared to land. And we are not responsible for the separation between airplanes. Air traffic control is. But in our country, we can be cleared to land way, like 20 miles out. And it's not a requirement for us to have the airplane directly ahead of us clear the runway before we receive landing clearance. I'm not sure what it's like in the UK.
Yeah, and it's, it's kind of, that's what it's leaning towards, that depends on what, if we're talking to approach control and they say, do you have the airport in sight? And you will say yes, or we have proceeding traffic in sight. They'll say clear for the visual approach. That's what I'm talking about. Is
right.
That,
that's true. But in this case, even in instrument approaches, we fly these PRMs all the time, and so we're not on a visual approach.
Right.
And let's say if the weather's really low and there's really a good reason to have these PRMs in effect. As soon as you contact tower, and again, it's usually around 18 to 20 miles out, they'll clear you to land, even though there are like 2 or 3 airplanes ahead of you. So I think that's his main question is, how can tower clear you to land when there are still several airplanes ahead of you? And the answer is because that's the way the procedures are set up. And
But they don't always do that, Jeff. They sometimes will say, continue.
Very rarely. In my experience, almost 99% of the time, when I check in with Tower and monitor the PRM monitor frequency, as soon as I check in, they give landing clearance to us, even though there's a couple airplanes ahead of us. I know. That's my experience. Maybe yours is different.
Yeah. Well, that happened to me today coming in this morning. I mean, we're landing to the east with the sun rising with heavy haze, and we checked in and we were not cleared to land. So we were
well,
cleared
your
to
experience
continue.
is different than mine, but I mean, I hear it all the time, and it's in this case because we're not on a visual approach. Approach control is responsible for keeping our separation, and then if at some point we are cleared a visual, then yes, we are responsible for it. But I think that I think the nut of his question, or what he's trying to get at, is he's asserting that in the UK you're not going to get a landing clearance from Tower until the preceding aircraft is clear of the runway. Is that true, Nick?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you won't get a clearance until the runway is yours. So you won't get a clearance with the guy ahead of you. When he's on the runway, you may get a clearance as he swings clear, but they usually then give a proviso, clear to land, one ahead vacating, and they have to obey quite strict rules on that before they will clear you to do that. So generally speaking, you're waiting for your clearance, and it can come quite late. It can come inside your normal instrument minima. It can come at 50 feet. So you just have to be sort of prepared for the fact that you might get a late clearance, and they'll often say that. You'll get a late clearance. There's one on the runway. The advantage of that is that you are confident that when you get a clearance to land, the runway is clear and it is yours. The disadvantage is that if someone blocks the frequency checking in just when you're waiting for a clearance, the control, you might not hear it. But that is the safest way, because if you don't hear a clearance to land, you go around. The bad news is if you're using the system that is used in the United States, you get a clearance to land at 20 miles, reliant on the controller stepping in, telling you to go around if he spots something. If that transmission's blocked, that's much more dangerous, because if you land on a runway that has something on it, then obviously that is a distinct danger.
But see, we're trained to land with all kinds of airplanes on the runway at the same time. Just kidding. That's just
well, I was just about to say the land and hold short procedures you guys use. Yes, in theory, you can land with someone.
Yeah.
Beyond the land and hold short point, whereas foreign carriers like us are not permitted to use that procedure in the States.
Oh, so you just enable. I mean,
Dr. Steph and I know that it's the wild, wild west over here. So
it can
just be careful.
I mean, I still get guys who aren't familiar with United States operations telling me this shouldn't happen. They shouldn't give us a clearance to land. But I've been doing it for so long.
It's just the way it is over here.
I mean, even
exactly right.
general aviation flying, we get that too. You've coming into controlled airport, and I've been number 3 to land, cleared. So
that's why it's always good to, if you can, if it's a VMC, to be looking out your windscreen and look for other airplanes.
Yeah, I mean, I do the great majority of my approaches in the States. I insist on doing an instrument approach because that's obviously more compatible with our procedures and what we're more used to. And on an instrument approach, I will, like you're mentioning on your PRM approaches, I'll still be given a clearance to land with 2 or 3 ahead, even though it is now the controller's responsibility, not mine, to make sure the runway is clear when I get there.
But I think any prudent pilot, and I think that you would all agree with me, is keeping track, not just listening to when they mention your call sign, but you're actually listening to everyone else out there who was using that frequency and keeping something in your mind, that situational awareness. Okay, that flight, they've landed, they've cleared. I've heard tower tell them to hold short of the next runway and monitor this frequency. If you're not doing that, well, I think that that is not a very smart thing. You should
no, that's exactly right. Because no controller is infallible, no pilot is
Right.
infallible. We all need to make sure that we're operating onto a safe runway. So, yeah, I think every pilot needs to be able to do that just for his own peace of mind. If nothing
And one of
else.
the things I always do, passing through 1,000 feet, although it's not a required call out, when the 1,000-foot call comes, I say clear to land, which is a requirement, either clear to land or not clear to land. And the second thing I always say is the runway is clear, or there's still traffic halfway down, or the traffic ahead is taking the high speed, or the second. So I'm always verbalizing, whether there's traffic ahead and if it's clear of the runway or not. Again, that's not a requirement, but I just always remember the terrible incident at Atlanta where an Eastern Airlines 727, I believe, came and landed on 26 right, and there was a small twin still on the runway, and they just basically blew right through the I think it was a King Air, and killed everybody aboard that airplane. And then, of course, the more not popular, but the one that most people hear about and remember is the one that happened in Los Angeles, US Air, hitting the regional airliner, and many people died in that one. So I always think of those, and so I always add that extra call out when I'm going through 1,000 feet, just to kind of keep myself cognizant of what is happening and whether there's somebody still on the runway or not. And in Atlanta, it happens quite often. In fact, we have crossing traffic, especially if you're using the one of the southern runways. A lot of times they have airplanes crossing the runway midfield or whatever, and so I also verbalize that.
Yeah. I mean, I do the same, but mainly so that my oppo beside me knows that I'm aware of the aircraft, and if he hadn't spotted it, then it'll draw his eyes to it. Because in the twilight, when you're facing a bit of a sun, as Dana was, it's hard to see sometimes, and aircraft that are on the glide slope ahead of you, they're not moving relative to you, so they're effectively stationary, and even when they're on the runway, they're not moving very fast, so relative to you, so they're not easy for your eyes sometimes to pick out in poor light.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're finished with that one. Thank you, Richard, for asking the question regarding that. I think in this case, it was because of the compression and editing that the folks at VAS Aviation did with this video. But at least we did get a chance to talk about the differences that we have in the U.S. and the U.K. regarding when clearance to land is given. And I'm not sure. I think each system has its advantages and disadvantages, and perhaps one day we can all be together and do the same exact thing.
When ICAO rules the world.
When we convert all of our temperatures to Celsius and miles of feet.
Don't hold your breath.
That'd be nice.
So basically, it's never going to happen.
I don't get why Britain has miles per hour, but they drive on the wrong side of the road.
Okay, moving on. We're going to start with this.
Hang on a minute, Steph. You already measure things in kilos, and you already measure things in centimeters in the medical profession.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So you're there already. So the rest of the Americans need to catch up.
Yes, but outside of work, I would never. It's strictly work.
Well, yeah, you see Liz says US go metric, never. You're a long way there. I mean, it's only actually a few sort of stick in the muds that are still.
Well, I can't wait to go to the bar after work and have 500 milliliters of ale. Okay.
Inches sounds a whole lot better than millimeters.
Wait a minute.
Just saying.
They don't say that. That's the point. See the irony in what I just said?
Yes.
Okay. Let's continue on with some more news, and this is sad news.
Monarch Airlines has ceased operations with immediate effect, leaving over 100,000 customers stranded and 300,000 future bookings cancelled. It's the largest UK airline to enter administration, according to the country's Civil Aviation Authority. The British government has asked CAA to charter aircraft to bring back stranded customers currently overseas.
I'm not sure what an airline is or aircraft, but
you call it from?
I don't know.
We can't even give them credit for it because we have no idea where this came from.
Well, it's someone from Ireland, I suspect.
I think so. It came down from heaven into my computer. And also we have a statement from Monarch Airlines CEO.
It's really probably easier to talk about how much we were projecting to lose next year, and the figure was well over £100 million. And we couldn't figure out a way of reducing those losses significantly, either by selling the short-haul airline or by improving it. And we tried everything and asked for expert advice from respected consulting firms, but we just couldn't find a way in the end. And we reached the end of the road late on Saturday night, made the decision and filed on Monday morning.
Sad news. The UK leisure carrier Monarch filed for insolvency in Britain's biggest ever airline collapse, leaving the government to arrange the return of 110,000 tourists and marking the third failure of a major European operator in 5 months. The airline and Monarch Travel Group were placed in administration, leading to the suspension of the Luton, England-based company's operating license, according to a statement on yesterday. Future flights and holidays have been canceled and won't be rescheduled, adding a further 300,000 people. This is just so sad. And again, this kind of hits home. We take it personally at the APG and the APG community because we know a very fine person, a big part of our community who is directly affected by this shutdown.
Yeah, I was chatting to Captain Al, who I guess it won't matter if we mention who he...
No, Royal Jet, Monarch, doesn't matter anymore.
Royal Jet, he used to call it, but Monarch was his airline. And of course, Al is also the Airline Pilots Union, BALPA representative for Monarch. So he was spending an awful lot of his time breaking the news to the union members and trying to assure them that what efforts they could make were being made to find them future employment, giving them as much information as they could, etc., rather than thinking of himself. So I spoke to him a few times. He'd been in discussions with the airline for the previous week. And the writing was on the wall, but they were always hoping that someone would step in and find some use for the airline, take it over, refund it, whatever it takes. But the thing that caused it to happen on the day it did was that's when the ATOL license ran out. Now in the UK, we've had so many disasters in the distant past of airlines going bust that left people stranded and out of pocket. The Civil Aviation Authority decided to put a £2.50 surcharge on all airline tickets that were taken out for holidaymakers. That went, all that money for all the airlines and all those flights went into a big bucket, so that should this happen again, any ATOL registered airline or holiday booking company or whatever can then use those funds, or at least the government, the CAA will use those funds to repatriate all the holiday makers and under certain circumstances refund people who had booked holidays who now could no longer go on them. So that is quite a big bucket of money, and pretty quickly the CAA had chartered aircraft and was bringing people home, and there were people who were applying for the ability to get their money refunded if they hadn't yet gone on holiday. So I'm glad to see that system was in place and it was working. So it's not like a huge raft of people have been left out of pocket. because some people may not have booked their tickets through Monarch who were ATOL. They may have gone to a travel agent who wasn't licensed with ATOL. So they wouldn't have coverage. But if they had paid on a credit card, then the credit card company will usually take responsibility for that, and they'll have their money back, or at least some of it. So there's, it's very sad for the people involved, but generally speaking, not too many of them will be badly out of pocket. My thoughts, of course, and I'm sure you're the same, Jeff and Dana and Steph, with the employees. They're often the forgotten people in these disasters, because they have been going along quite happily. They've got mortgages and families and all the financial commitments, and then all of a sudden the rug is pulled from under them. Once the administrators move in, there's a good chance that their kind of last month's pay may not be paid, because all of a sudden all the assets of the airline are freezed. There's no money coming out, and it's a long time before they decide how the assets of the airline are going to be spread out to all the various debtors. And they may only get, 10 pence in the pound, or whatever it is, a fraction of the money that might be owed to them in outstanding pay. I suspect there are some questions about pensions. I don't know what the situation with that is at all. But those are the people that I always feel for, because they're always right up to the last minute, right up to midnight. Al was saying that he was still hoping that, something might happen. And then, of course, the hammer comes down and it's all too late. And then the sudden realization that you don't have a job to go to the next morning.
Didn't the same sort of thing happen about a year ago, that they ended up getting the financial resources necessary to continue operations?
That's exactly right. Yeah. The CA had already put some aircraft in position just in case Monarch did go under a year ago, and they weren't needed in the end, so that's fine. This year, unfortunately, they were. And Monarch is not a sort of a new upstart airline. It's been going for over 49 years. It was coming up to its 50th year next April, I think. So that's a long time for an airline to be going, and it's so sad to see one of that nature going under.
Well, especially, as you mentioned, the employees were all feeling for it. But when personally, like such a great man like Captain Al, and it just really makes my heart hurt. But I know that he's a very sharp guy, and he's going to land on his feet, and everything is going to be okay for him in the long term. But wow.
Well, the thing that I thought was at least heartening, and I know it's not it's never the ideal thing, but at least on social media, it was really nice to see kind of the aviation community and former competitor airlines kind of speaking up and saying, if you're looking for a job, here's who you contact. And, the point is certainly made that, perhaps they end up at the bottom of the pile, but I think the intent is there to make sure everyone has a job to go to at some point. So, yeah, not ideal there, but at least it was certainly a lot of nice gestures and not even just gestures, but I think actual intent to get
our aviation community is a tight-knit group. It is kind of a small little slice of the world population, and I think we do have a natural tendency to want to take care of each other.
Sure.
So,
yeah, unfortunately, the bean counters in various airlines don't necessarily feel the same way. However, you're quite right, Steph. Great to see that, for example, Virgin Atlantic have opened a fast-track line for Monarch pilots to apply, and their recruitment will be looked at very quickly. Now, after all, I mean, Monarch were a well-respected pilot group, and they're quality pilots. Al, of course, is the cream of the crop. Any airline would be delighted to have him on board. 10-year captain, for heaven's sake. Sad thing is, of course, that doesn't matter which airline he goes to, unless he starts taking contracts in China or somewhere, he's going to be joining his next airline at the bottom of the seniority list as a first officer with 2 rings. So that's the sad reality of probably what will happen. So I don't know what Al will make regards choices, but that could be where he ends up.
Well, isn't it not possible? Isn't it possible for him to? I know there are airlines out there, I believe, that you can be hired as a captain. It may not be one convenient to being based at Manchester, but
yeah, there are, but they're not very. They're not that common, Jeff. You normally have to get a contract with a company that positions you. And then they say, right, well, we're looking for a 6-month A320 captain operating in China. This is the money. Do you want to go? And that's the way you'll get it. And there are some airlines that occasionally will offer direct entry captain jobs, but they're not always apparent. The major established airlines that Al might want to move on to, they're generally speaking work seniority system. Yeah, so he'll come at the bottom. And it'll take him a number of years before he gets his chance at a command again.
Well, Al, I think I can speak for everyone in the APG community. The food and beer and wine, they're on us.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. It's the future. Okay, you're supposed to stop playing. When I press this button, here we go. Nope.
Starts over.
Some technical difficulties here.
That machine hates you, Jeff.
It does. Okay, let's talk about Elon Musk. Some positive, uplifting news before we head over to the feedback. Elon Musk, everybody knows Elon, right? He has proposed, he's the guy that is the head of Tesla, the cars that are electric and self-driving cars and all that kind of stuff, and also the very successful SpaceX company and the Falcon 9 and the rockets that are being launched, and the first stage is coming back and landing on a barge, and it's pretty amazing stuff that's going on. He's also involved with doing something called a Hyperloop. And the latest thing is, at the end of his address, his SpaceX address not too long ago, and let me play a little excerpt.
If you build a ship that's capable of going to Mars, what if you take that same ship and go from one place to another on Earth? So we looked at that. And the results are quite interesting. Let's take a look at that.
Okay, and then they play this video, which we'll put a link to in the show notes. And the reason why I'm not going to play it right now is because it's just music. But you get an idea from this video what
he played a music video. What was it?
Well, it's sort of like a music video, but it has some. It kind of gives you a visual of what his great
like an animation,
is.
right? Like a.
No, it's not an animation. Oh, yeah, it is. You're right. Yeah, it is an animation. Very cool, by the way. Very amazing idea. But he continues. Here we go.
So the great thing about going to space is there's no friction. So once you're out of the atmosphere, you will go. It was smooth as silk. No turbulence. Nothing. There's no weather. There's no atmosphere, and you can get to most long-distance places, like I said, in less than half an hour. And if we're building this thing to go to the Moon and Mars, then why not go to other places on Earth as well? All right, thank you.
Okay, there's his address to his fan base regarding this new great idea, which is proposing to use one of SpaceX's forthcoming mega rocket, codenamed BFR, Big Effing Rocket.
I like their code name. That's my favorite part of this whole article.
I mean, they actually, in this article, spell out that word that I cannot, the F-bomb, to lift a massive spaceship into orbit around Earth. The ship would then settle down on floating landing pads near major cities. Both the new rocket and spaceship are currently theoretical, though Musk did say that he hopes to begin construction on the rocket in the next 6 to 9 months. And so in the video that you'll watch, because you'll click on it in the show notes, illustrates the idea. Passengers take a large boat from a dock in New York City to a floating launch pad out in the water. There, they board the same rocket that Musk wants to use to send humans to Mars by 2024. That's not happening. But instead of heading off to another planet once they leave the Earth's atmosphere, the ship separates and breaks off towards another city, Shanghai. Just 39 minutes, and some 7,000 miles later, the ship re-enters the atmosphere and touches down on another floating pad, much like the way SpaceX lands its Falcon 9 rockets at sea. Other routes proposed in the video include Hong Kong to Singapore in 22 minutes, London to Dubai or New York in 29 minutes, and Los Angeles to Toronto in 24 minutes. Anyway, this article.
So where was this
on
technology over the past 2 weeks when I could have really benefited?
Yeah, well, you would not have enjoyed your shower,
no. Yes.
Right?
Well, if they can build that
Okay,
in, I only need 5 minutes in the shower, right? So plenty of time.
Well, this article.
That's what she said.
That's right.
This article from Jalopnik is great. Let's see, who's the author of this? I think I cut that out. Sorry, whoever wrote this. Very clever writing. Last week, the always exciting Elon Musk announced a plan to launch soft, moist human passengers in his new planned rockets to fly on suborbital trips from city to city, allowing travel between almost any major city on Earth in under an hour. It's a fascinating idea, but not a new one. In fact, Ronald Reagan mentioned the basic idea in his 1986 State of the Union address.
So yes, this nation remains fully committed to America's space program. We're going forward with our shuttle flights. We're going forward to build our space station. And we're going forward with research on a new Orient Express that could, by the end of the next decade, take off from Dulles Airport, accelerate up to 25 times the speed of sound, attaining low Earth orbit, or flying to Tokyo within 2 hours.
That Orient Express would become the National Airspace Plane, NASP. A planned technology demonstrator of the passenger craft was known as the Rockwell X-30. The National Airspace Plane is actually quite different technically than what Elon made his video about, but conceptually is the same idea. Go places on Earth quicker by going through space. And this article continues talking about the fact that in the proposed new Orient Express that Reagan was talking about, it takes a little bit longer, but in Musk's idea, you have to take a big boat to a launch pad and then board the rocket, and I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work. And then you end up going to wherever you're going in the world and landing out on a barge out in the middle of the ocean somewhere.
In case you crash.
Yeah, you don't want to be anywhere near a city. And then you take another boat to a dock. And so by the time you compare the time that it takes in either system, they're pretty comparable, I think. But he says, but there's another difference that you have to be cognizant of. Rocket travel is not quite the same as airline travel. He talks about in this article that you're going to be laying on your back in your seat for the vertical rocket launch. And the closest analogs to what Musk wants to do with the BFR are likely the Mercury flights, since they're a vertical rocket launch, unlike the Soyuz one, intentionally suborbital. And let's see, he talks about the G-forces that you're going to experience in a vertical rocket launch. The Mercury capsule sustained a maximum of 6.3 Gs on launch, and then for re-entry, 11.6 Gs.
So I would be passed out at that point.
That's
just
a lot.
So you know.
Most humans will pass out at 5 Gs if they're not trained and in physical shape to do this kind of thing. Now, they did mention in this article that the space shuttle ended up subjecting their crews to a maximum of about 3 Gs, which is manageable. But, you know, look at the people that you're traveling with on the airline flights that you've flown on. There are a lot of people that are not going to be able to sustain 3 Gs of forces.
Oh,
So
sure.
there's-
Or the pilots.
Yeah, many people who could not do it.
And they're talking
Yeah.
about for doing it for the same price of an economy airline ticket.
Of course, I believe
going,
that.
What?
Yeah.
I'd be willing to wager it costs a whole lot more than the actual ticket value of that first class trip that I took.
Probably a lot more.
Yeah.
I would just like to recommend he concentrates on digging a tunnel through the earth, because that's going to be quicker. And don't forget, the first half of the journey is free because you're falling under gravity.
Well, he is. That is one of his great ideas. You know, I love Elon. I've heard that he actually believes that this world that we're living in is not real. It's like a simulated, environment.
Oh, like the Matrix.
It's like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like the Matrix. I mean, seriously, he believes that. So when you come up with an idea like this, it's not unusual. But we shall see. We could be wrong.
All right, Elon.
So
bring
a
it.
lot of people poop.
Let's see it.
Yeah,
But
a lot of people
builds
poo-pooed
Tesla.
his other ideas. So could be
He
that this
builds
is
the
good.
Tesla motor car.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that works.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Unless you're living in Houston and your
You
entire
drive under
city's
a lorry.
flooded.
Oh,
You're
okay.
not going to get very far in your electric car, are you?
That's true. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. That is enough, I believe, of the news segment, which took quite some time, but I think it was worth it. And now it's time for the best part of your show. Your show? Yes, that's what I said. Your show.
Captain, incoming message.
Because really, the APG crew would agree with me, I believe, that this is your show, those of you listening. And
Yeah, it's
we
not
do-
like the
100%.
average conference call. We're actually doing this for you guys.
Yeah, and it's also because we're good friends and we like hanging out with each other every week. That's
Sure.
kind of a
Kinda.
cherry on top.
No, just kidding.
Well, some of us.
Some of us.
Forget Stephanie. Okay.
I love you guys.
We love you too. Let's see. This was sent in by Larry Geezer Gregory in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Here's a great article from Flying Magazine by Martha Lunkin. And I'm not going to read the first part of it where she talks about her beloved, I think, Cessna 180, 72 Bravo. But the bulk of her article had to do with nicknames for airplanes. And she says, grounded, bored, and pissed off at my 72 Bravo. I was mindlessly playing around on the internet when I stumbled onto some websites with the clever, charming, less than charming, and sometimes downright nasty names pilots bestow on their airplanes, as well as explanations for why we call stuff what we do. Thought this one was interesting. Cockpit is allegedly from the British nautical term. Now I'm going to mispronounce this. I want to say coxswain, but
Coxswain.
it's how would you pronounce?
Coxswain.
Coxswain. Thank you.
Like when crew, like that, is that the same term?
Well, it's
Coxswain.
a pit for
Yeah, it's the same term as the little person at the back of
Yes.
an 8-man boat.
Right.
He's the
but different
coxswain,
meaning. Yeah. Okay, good.
yeah. And she said, but don't you agree a pit for fighting cocks is the more likely source?
Yeah.
Probably not. An autopilot is George because its inventor was George de Beeson, but the Brits think it's in honor of King George, who, of course, owned all British airplanes in World War II. Now, do you Brits really think that?
No.
Okay.
I've never heard that correlation.
Yeah, I hadn't either. So that's why I wanted to see if that was true with our APG crew Brit representative. Jet engines are blowtorches, and the area on the ground where a sonic boom is audible is a boom carpet. Isn't that a great name for a heavy metal band, or what?
It is,
Best
actually.
of it is. Best of all, I think, is calling an aerobatic airplane a vomit comet. Back in the 60s, when we were smaller in size, the Cessna 150s were flown were known as the One Filthy, Buck and a Half, and Cesspit. The aerobatic version was the Aerosplat. And I think it was what, Aerobat is what they call it?
Aerobat, yeah.
Aerobat. The larger Cessna 172 was a Sky Chicken, and the RG model was the Strutless or Gutless.
I hear gutless a lot still, because it's the cutlass.
Yeah.
Yeah. She goes on. We talked about. I think this was because we talked about the nickname for the Tomahawk, the Traumahawk.
Traumahawk.
And so Larry said, "Hey, this might be something to discuss on your show." I'm not going to go into all the other ones here on the list, but I'm going to put a link to this great article by Martha Lunkin in the show notes so you can read the rest of it. Very well done. Thank you, Larry.
I see that Stephen is flying a dentist killer.
Yes.
That's what they call doctor.
Oh, the Mooney is a dentist killer because the Bonanza is a doctor killer?
Yeah. Because dentists obviously don't earn as much as doctors, so they can only afford a Mooney.
Yes.
What do they call a doctor that... oh, never mind. I'm not going to do those jokes because it's not really fair at all.
No, it isn't. Because we have one here right now.
Pardon me?
We have one right here right now.
We have a dentist with us?
No, a doctor.
Oh no! The joke was actually in favor of the doctor and against the dentist.
Okay. I misunderstood.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. Chris sent us a link to a video on YouTube. What's actually the plane of the future? Actually, a very well done YouTube video by Wendover Productions, and I suggest you click on the link in the show notes to watch this. But basically, talks about some of these really crazy ideas like, airplanes with no windows and no pilots, and then everything is translucent and you can see everything around you and through the airplane and everything else. But this video basically says, probably not, but we can tell you that this is the airplane of the future. And I think they spent some time talking about the new middle market replacement aircraft, Boeing's twin aisle, but more like a narrow body cost airplane, but in a wide body twin aisle configuration, that kind of thing. But it's a very well done video. Whether you're an Airbus fanatic or a Boeing fanatic or whatever you are, I think it's still worth watching. So thank you, Chris Guru, for sending that in. And moving on quickly here, let's play some audio feedback from one of our favorite people, the Flying Kiwi.
Hey, APG crew, it's the Flying Kiwi. You've mercifully probably noted that I haven't made some feedback in a wee while. That's due to the small, dark, secure hole I've been put in due to what I do for a living, which is incredibly boring. Although if I told you about it, I'd have to shoot you. Suffice to say, we are not allowed electronic devices where I am currently working. So no iPods, no nothing. So I can't even watch the show on YouTube, which is a bit sad. So I actually have to do some work, which is I'm not really accustomed to. Anyway, I've been catching up in the den, and it's been lots of fun melting some plastic. So I hope Captain Jeff and Nick have got their parcels already, since you might be playing this sometime in 2018. Anyway, the purpose of my feedback was to elicit a question and answer session from Dr. Steph. She may not be able to help me, but hopefully she can make suitable soothing noises so I don't panic. I went for my medical the other day, and the ME said I was quote unquote disgustingly healthy, which I took to mean a good thing. And he noted that I'd had some surgery that year, and the surgery was for some sleep apnea. I have a mild sleep apnea that I had a sleep study for, and went to a specialist and got my massive nose made bigger on the inside as it is on the outside. And so that required a reduction of turbinates and a septoplasty, which Dr. Steph will probably know all about. It wasn't particularly pleasant, but it seems to have worked. So I believe I do not have sleep apnea anymore. However, the CAA think I do, and they have questioned me at length and now require me to do a second sleep study to prove that it's all gone away. Why this is concerning is I've had a bit of a brush with the CAA before. on medical matters. I had childhood asthma and mistakenly put this down on my CAA medical form when I first became a pilot. And after that, I was subjected to shorter reporting periods. I had to do a whole bunch of things. I had to do peak flow readings, all that sort of rubbish. Every now and again, I'd miss a reporting date, and I'd get a suitably shitty letter from, suitably crappy letter, beep, from the CAA informing me I'd missed the reporting period, etc., etc., etc. And it was quite horrible and laborious, and I then resorted to getting a specialist, an asthma specialist, to write a study up for me and send it off to the CAA to tell them I quite conclusively did not have asthma, which he agreed to. And the CAA then sent me back a letter saying, well done for managing your asthma, which was really annoying because it was quite expensive. So a couple of years down the track, I actually found a tame ME who I didn't take much convincing that I didn't have asthma after blowing my peak flow, which was, better than normal for my age. And he struck that off my sheet, which was great. So I'm a bit worried if the sleep apnea, or the sleep study, doesn't come back conclusively positive, what horrible things the CAA might have me do, sleeping upside down like a bat or something, I don't know. So I am a bit worried. I am taking steps to make things better. I am losing weight, which is always good for just about everything. I take some magnesium pills at night to stop any sort of restless legs that I might have. I don't drink caffeine after 4 p.m. Generally try and eat healthy, which isn't too difficult because I like to cook. So I try to do all these things, but I wonder if Dr. Steph knows of anything else that would benefit me. I do realise that it's not her speciality, and doctors don't know everything about everything because they're only human. But if you do know of anything, that would be nice. Or just make soothing noises. That would also be good. Like it's all going to be okay. Because I am a bit worried because the CAA here are notoriously fickle about medical matters. Having heard more than one horrific story from fellow pilots. I've been really enjoying the shows. Like I said, I've been down at the den watching it, and I just got to the barleycorn incident on episode 287, where Captain Nick was measuring his feet in barleycorns, which are quite sizable feet. Well done, Nick. I don't think you guys understood what he was trying to get to. In fact, it sounded like you guys were taking it, as a rude thing. But in New Zealand, well, certainly, we say, big feet, big socks, and I did say socks. Talons Douglas, I'll catch you guys later. Flying Kiwis out.
Always great to hear from Lucas, the Flying Kiwi, and we did receive our packages, and awesome.
In various states of repair.
Yes, well,
but the important one, the F4 Phantom, was pristine. So thank you very much.
So, Dr. Steph, doctors seem to think they know everything about everything.
Don't
right?
we, though? So, Lucas, soothing noises. It's going to be
yes.
okay.
I want to hear soothing noises.
You're going to be just fine. So, first of all, starting out, so yeah, the CAA and the FAA, when it comes to medical concerns and potential problems, can be, let's say, annoying at the least and expensive at the worst, and potentially at the worst, do have that ability to say whether or not you have a valid medical. But I think in your case, you're going to be just fine here with your recent issues with the turbinate reduction and septoplasty. And you did not say rhinoplasty, which is a conventional nose job. So we'll just assume that you did not have a nose job there. But no, I'm just kidding there. But yeah, sleep apnea, common problem, common medical problem. Lots of people have it. Lots of pilots have it. So you're correct. It's not my area of, it's not one of my specialties, but there's plenty of information out there from both the CAA and the FAA. And actually they give nice flowcharts for if a medical examiner suspects a pilot to have sleep apnea, if they've not been diagnosed with it, the type of assessment that's needed, or if in your case, like in your case, or they've had recent surgery that may suggest that this could be a problem, what needs to happen in order to make sure that that they're able to issue your medical certificate. But in general, if a pilot has sleep apnea and it's diagnosed and treated and deemed to be under control, much like your bout with childhood asthma, then a medical certificate can be issued just with special issuance. It's not a huge deal. Here in the US, I'm not sure how it works in other places. Usually to be diagnosed, you have to go for a sleep study, and they'll record all kinds of parameters, and they'll monitor your breathing while you're asleep and measure how many times you, how often you're, or the level of snoring, how often you stop actually breathing while you're sleeping at night, how often it wakes you up or interrupts your sleep cycle. So there's a lot of parameters and health data that's recorded with that. And then the most common treatment is usually not a surgical intervention, but usually just a mask that you wear at night called a CPAP device. Let me see if I can get the correct continuous positive airway pressure is what CPAP stands for. Acronyms are always kind of dangerous. But basically it's a mask that you wear. It goes over your nose in most cases and provides just a positive air pressure to help keep your airway open while you're sleeping. And that's very effective in treating sleep apnea. In certain cases, patients may need, like you had, a reduction in turbinate size or other oral pharyngeal surgical intervention to open up those airway passages a little bit more. But in general, if it's diagnosed, if it's treated, you're going to be just fine. As far as I can tell from the CAA, they do issue unrestricted medical certificates as long as it's treated. So, however, as usual, I would always back this up with saying, follow the guidance of your local medical examiner. It's always best to be forthcoming with information and make sure they have all of those medical details. And I think as long as you do all of those things, you'll be just fine.
Do you know what the difference is between God and a doctor?
What's that?
God doesn't think he's a doctor. Bam.
Where's the rim shot?
Yeah. Actually, that's a pilot joke, but I changed it.
It applies. I think it applies both ways. So, wait, I've got it.
Awesome.
I've got both of them. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, soothing noises. I think you're going to be just fine with this one, and you may need to complete the testing they ask for, but hopefully that's not too inconvenient and or expensive for where you are.
You're going to be okay, Lucas. Soothing comments from all of us. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, meditation, I was going to say. Dana, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, the FAA here in the States, they want to go ahead and, based on the circumference of my neck, pin me as being a sleep apnea person. In
circumference of
all
what?
honesty,
What did you say?
Of my neck.
Oh, neck. Okay.
My neck. They want to say that because I've got a big neck and big chest that I absolutely have to have sleep apnea. And you look down the reference of all the symptoms, and I have none of them. I've talked to my wife and I've asked her, do I ever stop breathing at night? I have none of them. I've worn sleep monitors and I have none of them. And the government wants to sit here and tell me you have sleep apnea. I look at them and say, well, if you look for it, of course, you probably find it. But I don't have daytime tiredness. I don't have daytime, I don't drink caffeine. I mean, let's be forthcoming. I don't drink caffeine unless it's an absolute emergency. I don't touch the stuff. I don't drink coffee daily. I don't drink caffeine. I don't drink any type of tea. I don't drink any type of sodas. I don't drink any type of energy drinks. I don't do any of that. And I'm a very high energy person. So if I had sleep apnea, I would not be able to function on a regular basis at this high level and be able to look at the government and say, hey, listen, I don't have sleep apnea, which I know I don't. I mean, it's been proven. I haven't done any sleep studies, but I don't want to look for things. I mean, if you look for, as a doctor, Dr. Steph, I think you can relate that if you have anything that you're looking for, if you look for it, generally going to find something. And
you can look for a lot of things that may not be worth looking for, but
exactly. I mean, you take an X-ray of body, it's a person's body, and you're going to find, as they get older, you're going to find some stenosis. Does it cause them symptoms? May or may not, right?
Sure.
So, I can function at a very high level without any caffeine, without having any daytime drowsiness. So do I have sleep apnea? Well, you never know, but I can tell you right now, the biggest part, the hardest part of my job is not doing my job. It's sleeping in every different bed, every different night, with a different pillow in a different location and different noises. That is the problem, not my sleep apnea. And I don't really have any sleep apnea. So.
And I just wanted to bring up two other points real quick. I just want to make sure that we're talking, make it clear that we're talking about obstructive sleep apnea, which is the most common type of sleep apnea, where you have the muscles in your throat relax and that it forms a physical blockage of those air passages. There is another type of sleep apnea called central sleep apnea, and that's a type of sleep apnea that's more controlled by the central nervous system and your brain, not sending the proper signals to your muscles that control breathing. I don't have the guidelines for that in front of me, so I don't know if anyone out there is wondering about that. And then the other thing, just what Lucas was asking about, does he know of any other things he should do to help mitigate his risk factors there? I think you're doing all the right things, Lucas. Eating healthy, staying in shape, regular medical checkups. You're doing all the right things.
So I'm imagining the discussion that Dana's having with Julie, his wonderful, beautiful wife, about sleep apnea. And I think she was probably thinking as she was answering, well, the only time you stop breathing is when I put the pillow over your face.
Well, we could say a few more things than that, but yes, the pillow would be appropriate.
Okay. Well, with that, I think that now is a good time for us to play this week's installment of the beautiful Plane Tales.
The Old Pilot's Plane Tales. The Ian Black Interviews, Part 1. In this, the first part of the Ian Black Interviews, you'll meet Ian and hear a little bit about his aviation career and about his love for aviation photography. It's a rare chance to meet this fine photographer and author, and I trust you'll enjoy the chat we had. Ian, first of all, I'd like to thank you very much indeed for allowing me to interview you today. You're a fascinating bloke. We've known each other for quite a few years, and you're someone who has managed to successfully combine two of my greatest loves. It's flying and photography. So how did you first become interested in those two subjects?
Well, my father was a fighter pilot, a well-known jet pilot. He left the Air Force around about 3 or 4 years before I did, but had a much longer career. He started off flying Meteors for National Service. Then he flew Seahawks and Vampires. He was one of the RAF's first Lightning pilots, and then became a Harrier pilot. And then a senior officer, flew for the Battle of Britain flight. In fact, he was the commander of the Battle of Britain flight. And I, as a child, obviously lived on Air Force bases and was surrounded by normally Lightnings and Spitfires and Harriers, etc. So, on my days at home from boarding school, I'd walk down to take him his lunch or whatever, or I'd just stand in awe watching him flying his aircraft around. He was always a very keen PR type of person, so never missed an opportunity to promote the Air Force, and that obviously involved formation aerobatics and formation flying. He was great friends with Ray Hanna, so did mixed formations with the Red Arrows. He did mixed formations with the Battle of Britain flight and Lightnings, and that involved taking photographs. So a chap called Arthur Gibson was one of our sort of family friends, and he would often be around the house, and so I'd sort of look in awe at his work, and the combination of the thrill of flying and wonderful photography sort of captured me really. And then I bought books by Charles Brown and looked at his work and was impressed by the way he took the clouds in the background, and then put the aircraft into the cloud in the background, and sort of dropped it in like a painting. So that was my trying to combine the two hobbies, like you, really, that I love flying and I love photography, and trying to get the two to work together.
What was your first camera?
My first camera, it was either a Zenith or it was either a Praktica, so something from the Eastern Bloc. I was obviously sponsoring the Warsaw Pact at that time. And what I do remember is that the Zenith might have been my father's camera, and we bought them from the either the officer's shop at Rheindalen or the BX at Ramstein. And I remember the Zenith was a 35mm camera that could sort of replicate Nikon, Olympus and Pentax, etc., but it weighed about 2.5 kilos, so it was enormously heavy. It had a very, very basic light metering system, and the lenses weren't brilliant. You had to be pretty sharp to take a good photograph with that, and it was just one of my regrets, I guess. I didn't buy Nikon from day one. I worked my way up from the ranks, as it were.
Fair enough. Now, you've had a pretty distinguished flying career. Perhaps you could give us a quick rundown of how that came about.
Well, I left the army, as it were, after about 6 months. I decided that I didn't want to join the Air Force and follow my father's footsteps. I wanted to do something different. At the time, it was during the Northern Ireland crisis, and my father said to me, probably to get me out of the house, what you should do is you should go and join the army and get yourself to Northern Ireland and see some of the real action. Well, perhaps that was a good idea from my father's point of view, but after about 6 months I realised that there wasn't going to be any flying in Northern Ireland, and I'd also be running around with a beret on and a gun, and that wasn't what I wanted to do. So I applied to join the Air Force, and I wouldn't say I was desperate, but it wouldn't be far off it, because at the interview I was offered a navigator post, which I didn't really want to do. I wanted to become a pilot, and I jumped at the chance and said, when can I join? So I always had the vision that even if I started as a navigator, then perhaps one day I could become a pilot, and at least I was out of the army and I'd be wearing blue rather than brown. So yeah, it was a hasty move to join the army, and an even hastier move to get into the Air Force. But I was offered navigator and I took it, and I sort of went through navigator school not fully aware of how complicated it was to be a navigator in terms of mathematics and astrophysics and things. And I'm not a gifted person in terms of academics, and so it was pretty tough. And then eventually I got posted to the Phantom, which I love flying. For the first year I thought it was great fun. The second year I thought it was incredibly dangerous, and the third year I thought, right, I need to become a pilot. So that was an inspiration to get out of the back seat and go to the front seat. And I was very lucky because one of my station commanders was a chap called Sir John Allison. He was a well-known Warbird pilot, a Lightning pilot and a Phantom pilot. And generally on Phantom squadrons, if the station commander wanted to fly the next day, all the navigators all scurried away onto a stone and said, no, I'm busy, I can't do it. And I thought, well, I was only 20, 21. I've got nothing to lose. And he was a nice chap, and so I often volunteered to fly with him. And on one particular day, I was sitting around the ops room, and someone said, does someone want to fly the station commander tomorrow morning? And I said, yes, I'm happy to do that. And off we went in this Phantom, bumbling around in about 4 or 5k visibility. And we went up to an area called Low Flying Area 2 near Osnabrück in Germany. And I don't know why, a sixth sense or something, I looked out over my left side and I just saw a Phantom literally half a mile away doing about 500 knots, and he was pointing exactly towards us. So he was on a collision course. And I just shouted to the guy in the front, irrespective of rank, push. And I said it a bit louder than that. And he did. We were at 250 feet and he pushed quite hard. And we must have gone down to about, 100 feet or so. And this Phantom went over my back canopy and over his front canopy, probably, 5 or 10 feet. I could hear the two jet engines just roaring away. I could count all the rivets on the stabilator. And we must have missed him by literally inches. And after that, we had a great rapport. And he said, well, if ever I can repay the favour for saving my life, I will. And I said, well, as it is, sir, I want to become a pilot. And so he backed me to the hilt for that. And so that was a pretty lucky chance meeting, I guess.
Absolutely. Now, once you started your flying training and became a pilot, what did you fly operationally from the front seat?
Well, I started off and I had to go through the whole pilot training scheme, which was, everyone said to me, oh, you'll find it a walk in the park, it'll be easy. And I didn't find it easy. I found the navigating very easy, but I found the sort of the coordination between a map and a hand is very difficult. So it is not the same as sitting in the back of the map and just looking out the window. Eventually I went through all the training scheme and got posted to Lightnings, which was one of the last courses to go to the Lightning.
And from there?
After the Lightning, I went to the Tornado F3, which was a short step down from Binbrook to Coningsby in Lincolnshire, and joined pretty much the Leeming Wing. So I went there in 1988, 89, just as the whole base was forming as a Tornado Wing, and started off on 23 Squadron, and then they were looking for experience on 25, which was newly formed, so I moved across to 25, and then ended up on 11 Squadron at the end, which I'd been on as a Lightning Squadron. And then we went to the Gulf, and then we came back. And so in the end, I did about 5 years on the Tornado.
Yeah, you're kind of missing a rather special airplane out of this little list of fighters you flew.
Well, there was the Lightning, of course, which was my father's aircraft. And so that was my goal, to get from the front or the back seat to the front seat of the Lightning, and probably by the most circuitous route that anybody's ever done. It took me probably about 5 or be in good stead, certainly, to fly the Lightning.
Didn't you end up doing an exchange tour?
I did. After I'd flown the Tornado F3 for 3 years or 4 years, I applied for an exchange tour. And at the time, the options were flying the F-16 in Norway or in Denmark or in Holland, or flying the F-4F Phantom in Germany, or going to America to fly the F-15. The one exchange tour which sort of stuck out to me was flying the Mirage 2000 in France, because it wasn't really part of NATO. It was living in the south of France, and it was flying a single-seat jet, which was very similar to the Lightning.
Excellent. I bet that was a fantastic tour.
It was. The French are great aviators. They've got a great air force. They've got a great philosophy about operating aircraft. They operate pretty much on a war footing all the time. So you fly with live ammunition or live weapons most of the time. There's no peacetime constraints as they were, and pretty much if you went to work on a Monday and they said, we need to deploy 10 aircraft to the middle of Africa on Wednesday, they would literally just put some bombs on and off you'd go. There'd be no, we can't do it, or we've got to reprogram the radar warning receiver, or we've got to put the new chaff dispenser on, or we haven't got this. They were all combat ready all the time, which was a real eye-opener to me.
Excellent. Now, you must have a few memorable antics from your days flying fighters. Do any spring to mind?
Probably not that I'd like to put onto air that would incriminate me, but
it's all water under the bridge now. No one will come after you, I'm sure.
Lots of things, really. Doing air combat, chasing bears, which I know you yourself have done. Having been in the Air Force probably 15 years at that time, the sort of finally getting miles and miles out over the North Sea and finally seeing a Russian aircraft, and you're going back to 1988, 89, 90 or so. I'd waited so long to see one that I remember the GCI said, no, you've got to turn back now. You're too far away. And I had to say, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I'll call you back in 5 minutes. And we just pressed and we pressed and we pressed, and eventually we rolled out behind this Tupolev bear. And I remember thinking, that's it. I've finally done it. I finally got behind a Russian aircraft, and now my job is done. I can go home now.
Excellent. Now, did you always fly with a camera?
I did. From about a year and a half into my first tour, I must have flown pretty much every flight with a camera, because initially I was obviously learning how to do the job in the back seat, and I didn't have the capacity probably or the ability to fly and take a camera with me. And then I guess looking at my photographs now, I must have had a camera pretty much in every flight. Even in fact, flying over Bosnia and Saudi Arabia and Iraq, then I still had my camera with me and thinking, well, if I get shot down, and it's going to be sitting in the bottom of this aircraft, I guess.
How did you get your first photographic book published?
Well, jumping back, actually, that when you asked me about my did I always carry a camera with me, reminded me that I did always carry a camera pretty much with me with the Lightning, and I watched a guy eject when he caught fire. And one of the things I always thought was, what if I'd seen that and not had my camera? And that was always my thought. Well, I might see something that nobody else ever sees. And this guy, we came off the tank and we were doing combat against Phantoms, and he announced he had a fire. And I went alongside him, and the whole of the bottom of his aircraft was burnt away, and it was smoldering, and it was still bits of control runs hanging out and things. And eventually he ejected, and I had one frame left on my camera. So I moved into sort of close formation on him, or out of close formation, and waited for that one shot, and got a shot of him just as he ejected and the canopy came off and his chute fired. So that was the reason why I always did carry a camera. And going back to your original question, my first picture was a very grainy black and white shot that I took of an aircraft as a gate guard at my father's headquarters at Bentley Priory, and I sent it to a magazine. They published it, and I don't think I even asked them for any money. I was so pleased to get it published. I think, well, they surely not going to pay me as well.
Whose idea was it to publish your first book, and how does it compare with your latest creations?
Well, I met a chap called Dennis Baldry who worked for Osprey Publishing in Longacre in London, and they were starting a series of colour series books called just the Osprey Colour Series books, I guess, and they were fast jets and jet combat, and a guy from Bimbrook had done one. And so I had amassed a reasonable collection of photographs, and then I got a commission to do the book, and I think at the time it was maybe £2,000 to do the book, the commission, which was a reasonable amount of money. It was enough to buy yourself a decent camera and enough film to produce the book. So it wasn't an insignificant amount of money. And then from that, I published maybe 7 or 8 more books whilst I was in the Air Force, always with the hope that one day I could publish my own book, because publishers tend to treat it a bit like yesterday's fish and chips. You've got a book coming out, they produce it, and then the next day they've got somebody else's book coming out, so they then want to move on to that. And so I wanted to do a book which had, in terms of photography, moving up a gear, I guess, into making sure that all the photographs didn't go down the middle of the book, all the photographs were nice and clear and across the center spread, no out of focus pictures, no marks on them, and no mistakes. So I decided to publish my own books, and it was actually pretty simple process of finding a printer, finding a designer, and then doing a lot of the preparation work myself.
We're going to leave it there for this week, but tune in next week to listen to The Plain Tale, which will cover the concluding part of the interview, where Ian talks about his post-Air Force flying and more about his aviation photography. If you're interested in taking a look at his website and his publications, you'll find him at firestreakbooks.com. FIRESTREAKBOOKS.com. And you'll be amazed at the quality of his photography and his fabulous aviation career.
Fascinating. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Looks
Nick
like
needs to unmute himself.
Yeah. And for some reason, the Plaintail screen on the video is stuck and can't get my picture back on.
Wow.
Well, that's quite nice, that picture, though. We quite like it, Jeff.
Yeah, well, that's better than looking at me for sure.
Anyway, I was just saying now, I muted myself. He's a great guy, Ian, and he's got a real talent. And Glenn Taylor was saying he's actually got some of Ian's books on his bookshelf, which is brilliant.
Wow. I'll have to see if I can find out where I can find some of his books and take a look at his pictures, because I don't think I'm familiar with any of them. So,
well, you can find that on his website, because he now publishes himself. So, yeah, absolutely. But no, he's been writing books and taking photographs for years, and of course, as he's become more renowned, he's been asked to do bigger and bigger jobs, and so now he spends a lot of his time, going around. And in addition, he used to fly for an outfit in South Africa where he flew the Lightning, a privately owned Lightning down there. And he actually has some great pictures from down there, which is also very good.
I look forward to the part 2 of your interview with Ian Black.
Yeah, it was all a bit of a rush getting part 1 out, so but part 2 should be a doddle now. I've got a whole week.
I hope it's better, because that was just awful.
Good.
Just kidding. But I'm not Jeff. I'm the microphone in the Airbus cockpit.
Yeah, microphones don't talk.
This one has a lot of opinions, doesn't it?
Yeah, very opinionated.
This one's a little snarky.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on with, and I have no idea how to fix this. Steve wrote in, he says, looks like Ryanair is leading the way in customer service again. And this is from a satirical, there we go, website, News Thump. And the article proceeds to say, Ryanair to charge £10 for apologizing. Budget airline Ryanair is to impose a £10 supplementary charge for apologizing to customers when they cock up. We can report this morning. The airline, which advertises low prices but then shoves its hand deeper into your wallet than Gordon Brown ever managed, announced the new fee to cover administrative expenses. Ryanair explained that staff at information desks will need extensive training to sincerely mutter the word sorry from between gritted teeth when your plane has been delayed for several hours, but that customers would have to cover the cost. Airline bosses insisted that the pricing would help keep costs low for customers who are content to be treated like the mindless disposable sacks of photoplasm they are. £10 will entitle the customer to a terse and mendacious apology. However, customers can upgrade to a premium remorse package, which will entitle them to more convincing expressions of regret. For a one-time payment of £50, a representative will try to squeeze out a tear whilst informing you that there's no way you'll be getting to your destination in the foreseeable future, a spokesman told us. Anyway, so it's very clever. Very cute, very much akin to what you'd read on The Onion. And we'll put a link to the entire thing in the show notes. Of course, that was satire, not true, as far as we know. Sven writes, hi, guys. Stephanie has been demoted to an honorary guy in one of the earlier episodes, if I recall. Yeah, we're all guys.
Yeah, I'll take that as a compliment, actually,
yeah.
I think.
While dreaming of really, a trip around the world, I noticed that the service I was using proposed that a leg from Beijing to LAX should be booked on an Acme flight operating a Boeing 717-200. No need for those big lumbering 777s, 747s, or Airbus 340s. Let's just downsize. Thanks for a great show. Best regards and cold IPAs. Sven Rather, he says, please don't even make the attempt. Just call me Danish Sven. Well, too late. I made the attempt. What do you think? Rather? I think Rather?
I'm not going to make the attempt.
You're not going to make the attempt. Ah, come on.
Sorry. Okay. I'm just respecting his wishes, really.
Okay. Sven, Danish Sven. And hey, who doesn't love the Danes? I have a little bit of that blood in me.
Yeah, I think a lot of us do, because they were all doing all that pillaging and stuff.
That's damn right we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
okay.
A third Scandinavian. It's great.
Your third is Scandinavian?
Yeah.
Okay. And remember, this is not Captain Jeff speaking. This is the microphone.
People on the podcast may not understand.
Yeah, the audio podcasts are going, what? What is he talking about? Well, on the video here, the graphic that we used when the Plain Tales is playing is stuck in the position. So anyway.
We got a nice picture of a microphone. And it's
yes, it's a very beautiful microphone with the Acme logo on it. Very nice custom job. Bradley sent in this, and I have some audio to play from a news outlet.
The U.S. Army tells us it was at 7:30 last night that one of their Black Hawk helicopters collided with a drone over New York City airspace. They said it's the first of this kind of incident that they are aware of and that an investigation is underway. The pictures here document the aftermath of what the Army says is the first collision they know of between one of their aircraft and a drone. It happened over Midland Beach on Staten Island Thursday. The chopper made it back to Linden Airport in New Jersey. The crew of 4 on board unharmed.
Thankfully, it didn't appear to impede the helicopter's flight, and it landed safely, and we're grateful for that.
Stephen Cohen is a drone expert. He teaches this subject to students at the Bergen County Technical School. He's amongst those trying to figure out what happened. The Army says the Black Hawk out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, was in New York City this week as part of the United Nations General Assembly's security operations and was flying at about 500 feet when it collided with the drone.
We don't know how far the operator was from the aircraft, from the manned aircraft. We don't know how far the operator was and how tunnel visioned he might have been.
Now here's the twist to all of this. Our expert tells us for all of this week, there's a flight restriction covering all of New York City because of the UN's General Assembly meetings, and that covers drones. So in this case, he says, either the drone operator did not check for restrictions or decided to ignore it.
You just don't want that to happen. It's very frustrating and reckless and ignorant.
The Army says it believes it was just an accident and was just happy that the crew was unharmed. The operator of the drone has yet to step forward. As for the damage to the Black Hawk helicopter, the Army tells us it is undergoing repairs and they expect it to be back in service within the next 24 hours. Well, on the Hudson River tonight, Arthur Chian, Fox 5 News.
Thank you. So we actually have a collision with a drone, in this case, a military helicopter.
I want to know where they found these this imposter drone expert, though, because I think we all know who the real drone experts are, right?
Who?
Over at the UAV Digest and.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They are the experts. Obviously, I didn't hear a familiar voice, so yeah,
Nope.
You're right. Imposter stuff. Good point. I'm going to make Lane so happy. He was complaining he didn't have a blue wrench. There you go. You have the spanner.
Yay!
Yay!
Nick is trying to talk, but he's still muted again. So
He's muted. He's not talking.
Don't tell him.
Oh, good point, Nick. Thank you for whatever you've been trying to say.
We will not share.
And now he's not going to say anything. He's just going to punish us. Fine. Let's see. Yeah. Use that power wisely, Lane. Okay. Hey, one of our APG community members, love this guy, Stephen Ivy, sent us in some audio regarding he's trying to find a new job and eventually he wants to become an airline pilot. And so he's doing his best to find a way to log those hours. And so he sent in some audio feedback regarding a recent job interview. So are you ready for this? I am.
I am too.
Hey everybody, Stephen Ivy, the Mooney driver from West Georgia. Got some feedback to leave. And before I get to that feedback, I actually already have this recorded and I somehow managed to delete the entire 16-minute recording of everything that I had recorded. So we're going to start over again. So I'm going to leave some feedback on my first interview as a commercial pilot. The interview was with, let's just call them Acme Survey. They do a lot of survey and aerial mapping jobs across the United States and everything. So I flew down in the Mooney Thursday night to get there for the interview Friday. And got down there, everything's fine. And the Friday morning, they said they'd pick me up at a certain time and kind of ran late, picked me up late and everything. So that's not a big deal. That happens. Anyway, get to where we're going to be doing the interviews and everything, and had to wait a little while. There were apparently a couple other guys that are going to be interviewing during the course of the day with me and all that good stuff. So there was a ground portion and a flight portion of it, and I got to pick to do the ground portion first. So that consisted of a what I thought was just going to be a test, but turned out later on there's some more to it. So went and took the test, 170 questions, and I had 1 hour to do it. Didn't do very well, but there was some stuff in there that I just wasn't overly familiar with, and don't really use a whole lot in my day-to-day flying. So it's stuff I kind of had to look up to really know the right answer and everything. But so anyway, got done with that, and then we went over the test, and they went through a lot of the questions that I'd got wrong. We did that for about 30 minutes, and after that, they wanted me to do some, what do you call that? Do some flight planning for some trips, just at random airports to another airport and everything. So did the first one, and was, explaining my reasoning behind choosing the route I did, why I picked this, that, and the other. And one of the guys that was interviewing me during that time, he asked, well, if you didn't have your attitude indicator, would you still fly VFR to the other airport to go pick up the part that would be there for you when you got there? And I was kind of hesitant. I was like, well, I would prefer not to, but I could if it was daytime and VFR conditions and everything. So we're on to the next one. Next flight was from Denver to Salt Lake City. And had to really kind of think about that one because, I'm going to be, the aircraft I'd be flying would be 172. Obviously not enough power to get over the Rocky Mountains, and doesn't have oxygen on board, so that factors into which way you can go there, which your choices basically consist of going up to Wyoming and going around the lower part of the Rockies right there, or you can go all the way down to New Mexico and then come back up. Either way, you've got a good bit to go through. So I explained my reasoning on that one, everything, and then the guy pointed out again, I was like, well, couldn't you follow this interstate through the mountains this way? And I got to looking at it, and I was like, well, you could, but it's going to be a rough ride, and there's not really a whole lot of places to sit down. But he said, and he followed that up with, but you could. And I was like, sure, if somebody really wanted to, I guess they could. And then he made a comment about how a lot of the people that are out flying usually just follow the interstate through the mountains out there, so that way they have somewhere to land. And at that point, kind of had a flag raised. That was actually the second one that I got raised that morning. The first one came when I got there and realized I was the oldest person in the whole building, which isn't really saying a whole lot considering I'm only 27. But I'll get to that later. Anyway, so I had a third route they wanted me to plan. This one was from, I believe, somewhere around Fresno, California, over to Bishop. I think that's in Nevada. Yeah. So other side of the Sierra Nevada mountains. So kind of the same situation with the Rockies. You either have to go one way or another to get around the mountains and, get around them. So I cued in again that they were wanting to cut through the mountains through little valleys and everything. And so pointed one of the valleys out again and said, okay, yeah, that'll work. So got done with that. And ended up waiting around for about 30 minutes for the other guys to get back from flying. They got back and they took me out to the plane. It was a 172 SP, so carbureted version. And ended up waiting another 30 minutes for the instructor, and he finally got out there. And I think during the whole course of the flight, he might have said less than 20 words to me. It was not a whole lot. I mean, he basically said what we were going to do. We went out there and we did it. Didn't tell me anything about the airplane, if I should know anything, hey, it does this, it does that, how to use this, and no one really said whether or not I could ask questions or not or anything. So anyway, we go do the air work, and then we come back to shoot an ILS into the airport that we were flying out of in Daytona, and then came back around to do a localizer. ILS went fine, got back up, did the localizer, and it started getting busy. A lot of the flight schools down there were out flying, so it was really hard to hear the controller. And then also everyone's a Cessna, so you had to really, really, really pay attention to what call sign they were saying, so you knew what your next instructions were. So had that going on, and then I was trying to figure out on the GPS how to get the DME put in, or the district measuring equipment pulled up, so I could figure out how far out I was to the runway. So I was fumbling around with it, and the guy was like, well, do you need help with that? I was like, yeah, I've never used the Bendix King GPS before. He's like, okay, well, you should have said something. I'm like, well, no one really said I could ask questions. No one said that you were here to help. It was kind of get in the plane and go. But I didn't say that. I kept flying the plane. So did that, shot that approach, and then we did a go around again and did a power off 180 to the runway, and then we finished the flight portion. So then sat around for about another hour for the other guys to finish up their ground portion of it. And this goes back to when I first got there too. The whole operation of this place is like really unprofessional. A lot of cutting up, a lot of joking around. I really had to fit, like, I didn't go to an actual college when I was in school. I did everything online, but this place I would picture being a fraternity house. That's the best I can relate to it. I felt like I was at a frat house and how they were operating and stuff. Anyway, so one of the other guys got done. I got to talking to him, and he was a CFII and multi-engine instructor out of California. And, I got to talking with him, and he kind of had the same red flags come up about the place that I did and everything. So that was kind of good to know that I wasn't the only one that felt that way. Anyway, so finally the other guy got done. They were going to take us to lunch and everything. And I told him, like, hey, I need to go ahead and go so I can get out in front of the thunderstorm buildup that happens every afternoon in Florida and Georgia during the summer. So I left, flew back, and then went to the Meetup Friday night with everybody. So my first interview experience, I don't think it was, well, it was bad, but it wasn't in a bad way. It was in a good way, because now I know this isn't somewhere I want to go work for, and this may not be what I want to do. And I, just a lot of things, just learning what to look for, and stuff like that, what to expect, which that was really one thing I really wanted to get to this regardless was, what to expect in the aviation interview, since I really haven't done one since I was a flight attendant. And of course, a flight attendant interview is a whole lot different than a pilot interview. But, I also was chatting with some folks in another pilot group that I'm a part of online. And one guy made a really great point about when you're going to look for these jobs and everything. If you feel like that they're going to have you doing something unsafe, or you might get put in a bad situation that's going to get you hurt, get somebody else hurt, or you cause you to have some kind of blemish on your record, you probably don't need to go there, because if you've got some kind of blemish on your record, it's going to follow you around for your whole career. and it may keep you from getting on with a really good company down the road. So I kind of took that advice to heart, I think, from this whole process. But anyway, so yeah, that was my experience this past couple days with my first commercial pilot job interview. So, well, while I'm leaving some feedback, other things going on with me. I've been working a lot on the weekends recently. That's no fun. But it's work, so you gotta do what you have to do. Trying to finish out my multi-engine training. I'm about halfway through. I've been doing the training in a Piper Apache, the 160 horsepower version. It's a 1958 model, and I'm pretty sure it's the original interior and the original instrument cluster. So yeah, I'm flying an antique electronic shop basically. Anyway, so hoping to get that done in the near future, and maybe do a little bit more flying in my plane too. I haven't really got to fly it too much recently, but anyway, I hope this feedback helps out other people that are out there looking to do something else other than flight instructing. Hopefully it gives you a little bit of insight on what they expect in a negative way if you go to a job interview. Hopefully if you go to an interview, it doesn't turn out to be this way, and it's really positive for you and you get the job you want. But if anyone that's looking to go do aerial survey with any kind of company that may or may not be in the Daytona Beach area, feel free to get in touch with me. You can get in touch with me on Slack, or you can get in touch with me on Twitter, Stephen Ivy 1990. That's Stephen for PH and Ivy's IVEY. Anyway, hope everybody's doing all right, and we will talk to you later.
Thank you, Stephen. It's always interesting to hear about these operators out there, and to hear your actual real experience with the interview and the questions they ask and that sort of thing. Just to let you know, I think Stephen was offered a couple of different positions with survey flying companies, and I think he accepted one this morning. I'm not sure if he's heard back. Do you know if he's in the chat? I know he was in the chat room earlier, so I don't know if he's.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in there for a while, and I wasn't great on checking messages earlier today, but I know that there were better offers out there, better companies. But I'm glad that he sent this feedback in, because I know a lot of our listeners are folks who are trying to get into commercial aviation in one way or another, and for a lot of people, there's kind of a lot of unknown out there in terms of what you might find or encounter. And my advice is always interview lots of places. You know, don't just pick one or two and take the first offer that comes your way unless you're 100% certain that that's exactly who you want to work for. You know them well, you know what you want to do. You don't get a good sense of what is out there and what might be good about one company or bad about another company until you actually see it firsthand and get to experience it. So that was great feedback.
Yeah, I think you really do need to trust your gut feeling about certain operations, and they're not always right, but I think they're pretty, I'd say probably 90% of the time they're good.
Yeah, and things may look good on paper, but sometimes there's that other intangible aspect that you can't get unless you go and meet with people who actually work for a company or work at a certain place and get to know what their culture is like. So yeah, great feedback.
Yeah, and we look forward to hearing where Stephen ends up surveying a company and that kind of thing. And of course, as I said, his goal is to become an airline pilot, and I'm absolutely positive that it will happen, and hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, this is just a step on the ladder, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yes. And it will really make you appreciate the airline job when you land it.
Oh, for sure.
Malek says, curious question. Do you feel G-forces, upward and downward, feelings, emotions of the aircraft on takeoff, descent, and landing, and get that weird feeling in your head on takeoff? As a passenger, these sensations come and go, but as a pilot, do you get them? And do they eventually go away? Thanks. Hope to be an airline pilot someday. Malik. What do you say, Nick?
I get weird feelings everywhere, but
we're not going to talk about those weird feelings.
Just the ones in your head, Nick. Just the ones.
All right, okay. Well, no, not really, because G-forces are so insignificant in an airliner as to be ignored. You obviously feel the motion, but that's not really down to G-force. It's just down to the aircraft jolting around as it gets airborne, perhaps, and hits a few lumps and bumps or runway lights. You obviously get a feeling of elevation. You can feel your ears popping. Your sensory organs will react when the aircraft maneuvers. But that's not really down to G-force. G-force is something that really you need to be able to produce a very steep turn and sustain, and then you start to feel the increase in weight that G gives you. No, I think we all feel the motions of the aircraft. I don't think those of us who are experienced pilots think they're weird. For us, they're completely normal. Of course, for people who perhaps haven't flown before or not very often, it will feel strange, but in my mind, it's probably no stranger than the feelings you get if you're on a fairground ride or something similar.
Yeah. I'm convinced that many of the co-pilots I fly with have no feelings whatsoever when it comes to G-forces.
I have lots of feelings. What are you talking about?
Not you, Dana. You're a smooth flyer. You actually take pride in the craft of flying the airplane smoothly. I cannot say that for many of the first officers I fly with.
Really?
Yes. And captains when I'm riding in the back. I'm thinking, really? This doesn't feel like a roller coaster to you?
Well, grab a handful of spoilers and rip them right out. That makes it very comfortable for everybody.
No, I'm talking about the ones that just use VNAV and don't try to do anything to anticipate the things that you need to do to make everything operate smoothly. And it's just like you can let go of your drink and it will stay suspended in space in front of you.
As you experience negative G or zero G.
Zero G, yeah. And sometimes negative G.
That has been the focus of the way that they've been training, though, is that they just want everybody magical. It works so well on our airplane.
Well, it works well in like
perfect switch.
Yeah, when it works well in a simulator that doesn't have any motion, and you don't feel a thing. It's nice and smooth.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, don't get me started. Too late.
Too late.
So, Dana, are you going to leave us so you can get that special?
Oh, we're just about 3 hours now, Jeff.
Well, don't push it. We're not quite there yet. But if you need to leave, go ahead. You going to leave?
A couple minutes. I'll be gone in a couple minutes.
If you leave us without us,
I'm getting tired.
Okay. Well, thanks for being with us tonight. Obviously, a very valuable contribution, as always, to our show, and it's always good to see you.
Yes, well, of course, I had the mute button when I was trying to respond to the previous feedback from Steve, but I just couldn't get the mute button off on my parts.
Okay. We're gonna run a tutorial for you. And Nick, Nick has not been great with the mute button tonight either. We'll run a tutorial.
Well, the other thing is we're gonna work out a hardware solution to this whole muting thing, because it's funny because we've been starting to do these recordings where everybody's doing their own local recording, and the problem with that is that when you're muting on the Hangout, it's not muting what you're recording locally. And so it turns out to become much more work for me than just using whatever's
I never
on the
considered
Hangout.
that, Jeff.
Yeah,
I
the
didn't either.
only
I was
and-
thinking
and
about it, but yeah.
I thought about it, and the only way to shut that off is by turning your mic off.
Yes. Well, we have a way to do that without any clicking and popping like what you would do with your ATR microphone with that little switch. So, hey, we have some ideas. So we're gonna make this work. But
I was wondering if you would pick
Hear
up.
all those great things I said about you guys.
yeah, well, I'm not gonna publish all those comments that you made when you thought you were muted.
I haven't said
HR. We do need to have a
Actually,
meeting, by the way.
We'll set it up. No, I was wondering if you could hear all my.
I'm sure the flatulence is amazing for you.
It is. It's pretty impressive, actually.
I was wondering if you could hear all like the typing and clicking and like people coming in the door and yeah.
I'm not going to say what I'm hearing because it would be embarrassing for you all. Okay. Anyway,
Barbara wants to know what I wear on my head. There we go.
There you go. Yeah.
It's on.
Wow. Unintended consequences, I guess we'd say. All right. Bill writes, he sent us this link to a YouTube video, and it is a video of a Boeing 787 door trainer. Easy, Nick. It's I don't know if you watched this video.
Yes,
but it showed the door automatically closing, and he said, "Is this not a plug design? Could it be opened in flight?" And this is again Bill Heron. Thank you. Great question. And if you watch this, you look at this door, and of course, most of these airplane doors actually do swing out and then come back in and seat. And believe it or not, they are plug doors. But you look at this video and you go, well, that can't be a plug door because how could it be?
There's the telltale movement, the final movement, which is when it translates downwards, and the lugs of the door will settle behind the fuselage plates, thereby creating the plug style fitting. So yeah, it comes.
Nick is the winner. Ding, 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 ding. He was right.
Yay.
So if you manipulate the door just right in this opening, even though the door is about the same size as the opening or perhaps even larger, but if it's angled a certain way or whatever, it can actually fit within that space. And then, as Nick says, when you watch this video, you'll see that last little bit of movement downward, and that's how it works.
Yeah, you have to just imagine. In fact, there is actually a view of it. If you pause the video at just the right spot, you can see that there is an L-shaped channel in the fuselage, and there's obviously some large lugs on the door itself, and the lugs locate in the shaft. And then as the door completes its movement and comes completely closed, the door slides downwards and locates in a position there where, as you increase the pressurization on the aircraft, it will be forced against something that is solid and can't be moved. So it will, and that's really the principle behind a plug door. It's not like a cork which you push into a hole. It just so long as the more pressure you put on the inside, the firmer the door is seated. That's the basis of the design.
But it is a good question, I think, because you look at that
yeah.
and you go, wait a minute, how does that work? How is that a plug door? Because it was actually outside the airplane. Yeah, now it's back inside, so that doesn't make any sense.
No.
And I kind of said the same thing. It's like, well, maybe it isn't a plug door. And then I did some research on Wikipedia and found out that it's all trickery.
It's an illusion.
It's an illusion.
It's not a plug all the way around it like a cork is. So there are just tabs and what's the word I'm looking for? Lugs. Tabs and lugs. And so long as when the door is seated in its final position, those two are in line, and that's what we look for when we check the door is properly locked. There's a mechanical indicator. I think on the 78 it's an electrical indicator, but on the Airbus it's a mechanical indicator showing that the door is lined up properly, and that means the lugs on the door are located against those immovable bits on the fuselage so that there's no way the door can fly open.
Ah, so it's not necessarily the door that's the plug, but it could be those other pieces and pins
So
and
just
stuff.
just scanning the article here, I think this was this the Wikipedia article that you put in? It talks about locking mechanism with multiple pins or hatch dogs. What's a hatch dog?
Hatch dog. Come
dog,
on.
A dog, a hatch dog. If you think about it, you remember those old movies of submarines, and they used to have those big iron doors, and they'd slam them and they'd spin the wheel.
Yeah.
And the wheel forces out two arms that locate in holes, and that's dogging the door. So that's probably where that term comes from.
I think it's
dog.
I like it.
Oh, there you go.
I think that's a hatch dog.
There you go.
Sitting
How
there
could we
waiting to
possibly
bite you to touch anything.
How could we possibly get through an episode of APG without Dana's barking sound? There you go. Wow, we must be getting near the end because this is all falling apart.
Yeah, because Dana wants to go out for a pee.
Speaking of lugs, Mark, I'm not calling you a lug, writes in, why do North Americans use the term afterburner versus Europeans?
Europeans? Europeans?
Is that what you just said, Jeff? I can't believe that.
I'm sorry. Rude. It was a compliment.
Nick a penis?
Europeans use reheat. Are they the same thing? So, Captain Nick, what do you think about that?
That's a really hard one. Let me think about that. Yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next piece of feedback. No.
Just that you guys just like to rename it. You don't like using the same names we do because you like to think, well, hell, it makes it sound like it was invented in Europe. We can't have that because everything's invented in America. We know that.
Well, come on now. We adapted to your lineup and weight versus position and hold. I mean, lineup and weight's so British. It's not even funny. Lineup and weight.
It's not British.
Lineup and weight.
It's IKEA.
Position and hold. That's more manly, masculine. Position and hold.
Hold that position. Hold that thing.
Hold that position.
Only in your mind,
wait
Dana.
for me to be there. Line up and wait. That's like, I don't know. You say so many bad things here.
So, Jeff, you were going to say something about something intellectual about this?
I was going to attempt
Excellent.
that. But apparently we've degraded to the gutter.
A little bit of mudslinging. Now, we all know what a reheat is. It is using the oxygen that's still left in the hot gases that have come through the engine and are exiting the jet pipe, and you refuel, put more fuel into that those hot gases and reignite them a second time. And that adds a considerable more thrust, a larger amount of thrust to the system, but it does require large volumes of fuel, which is a bit of a nightmare. So it's a great way. In fact, you can reheat almost any type of jet engine. You can even reheat a piston engine, would you believe? Because there was a way. There were people who were doing the old Schneider Cup back in the days of seaplanes and the early Rolls-Royce Merlins, who were looking at reheating the exhaust from the piston engines to give more thrust. So it's not just a thing about jet engines, doesn't matter. And it's just the process of reburning that exhaust fuel to give you extra thrust. Now, who invented it? I don't know. You have to read that article.
So here's the deal. I started doing some research on this, and I thought initially, well, it was called an afterburner because in 1947 in the Science newsletter, here's the quote: emergency spurts of speed of jet-propelled combat planes will result from a development of the Ryan Aeronautical Company, which the makers call an afterburner. And then it says the same source refers to reheat. And they have some other citations in 1947 and 1948 when a British patent was proposed for the act of turning on the reheat, opening up the propelling nozzle, et cetera, et cetera. And then I thought, wait, hold on here. Early British reheat work included flight tests on Rolls-Royce W2/B-23 and a Gloucester Meteor in late 1944, about 3 years before the earlier citation.
W2 was Whittle's second engine design, wasn't it?
There you go. And ground tests on Powerjet's W2/700 engine in mid-1945. The engine, anyway, they talked about reheat and not afterburner. So I guess based on my very shallow research, it looks like perhaps the term reheat was actually proposed or used earlier than after
microwave ovens.
Microwave onions.
Onion.
I've never heard of a microwave onion before.
Microwave oven.
Don't.
Hang on a minute, Dana. Where did the klystron from the microwave oven come from?
The what?
The bit of kit that generates the microwaves in your microwave oven. Where do you think that came from?
Oscar Mayer in the United States.
British radar.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
All right, that's enough.
You guys are so upset about us throwing the tea overboard. So
let's just say guys in Boston are stuck in their own century.
Let's just say that afterburner and reheat is pretty much the same thing, and you know what? Who cares?
Yeah, you're quite right.
Okay. Glenn Towler from Wellington, New Zealand, sent in this quick little thing. He says, I thought you might like the story. I also find it amusing that the BBC couldn't find a photo of a KLM 777 and used an Embraer 190 instead. He said, such similar aircraft, don't you think? And so this link that he gave us from the BBC, yes, indeed, when he sent this, if you clicked on this link, you would see this article regarding KLM 777 losing a piece of its wing. And the picture indeed was a regional jet. And I thought it was pretty amusing and funny that they did this, but not surprising, because we're all used to that kind of thing with journalists. But when I clicked on it before we started recording today, guess what? They must have had several people that said, that's not a 777. And they changed the photo. It's still not a 777, but it's more similar to a 777 than a regional jet. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It looks like some kind of an Airbus narrow body to me.
They picked a hazy picture of a indistinct aircraft. Yeah, larger
in the distance. Yeah. But it was another case of the journalist just doing a search for KLM and seeing the KLM colors, and they go, okay, that's good enough. So
frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, but we're used to it, aren't we?
That's the trouble. We're getting used to it. We're stopping complaining, but good for Glenn.
All right. Let's do this. Let's do this for the last piece of feedback for today's show. This is from Rebecca, who we met at the meetup in the Wings Over Pittsburgh. A very lovely lady, and we met some of her offspring as well, who were equally as wonderful. Dear Captain Jeff and APG crew, I've just returned from an informal talk given by a neighbor who found himself at the center of the planning of the Flight 93 Memorial, and I was so moved that an idea which has been brewing in me has risen to the surface, this time not to be pushed aside by busy times. I'll attach a link to something that the speaker has produced for a local public radio show, and I'll put that in the show notes. I am an APGer from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and have attended Wings Over Pittsburgh, as well as more recently a small meetup with Nev and Craig in DC. That was just a few episodes ago. And even met Micah in Maine last summer while on vacation. I know that meetups are good times and full of fun, so I've never quite figured out how to shape my idea into a suggestion. But then again, we're community, so I'm not alone. I would like to suggest a meetup at the Flight 93 Memorial in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. It's located about an hour and a half from Pittsburgh Airport, 2 hours and 15 minutes from Harrisburg, MDT. I do not know quite what the vibe would be because it's such a solemn place, and feelings run deep after having been there. Nonetheless, I'd like to try to put something together. I'll be traveling to Pittsburgh on October 18th for a routine checkup at the UPMC, University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, I believe, and could meet face-to-face that afternoon or evening with any Pittsburgh-based APGers to brainstorm. By the way, the fall foliage along scenic Route 30 in western Pennsylvania is late this year, so I'll be passing through just a few days shy of the predicted peak, predicted peak, which will be expected the 24th through the 30th. If anyone would like to meet me at Flight 93, it would be very late in the day or the next day, as I might also be hauling some furniture from my house to another APGer who just moved to Pittsburgh, and I might end up staying over. Okay, that sounded weird. It's all okay. The furniture is from storage in my attic, and the APG friend is my oldest son, Andrew, I believe. I wonder if we could plan something ahead, though, perhaps for next year, when the final installment of the permanent memorial is expected to have been completed, a 93-foot wind chime feature called the Tower of Voices. I would be glad to dialogue with anyone interested in making something like that happen. Please message me on Slack, Twitter, where I am Rebecca Sela. She says not my real last name. Or maybe Captain Jeff can forward this email feedback to you, and my long email address will be found in the header. I will try to post something in Slack in the Meetup page as well. Thank you for allowing this serious teetotaler in the APG community. It takes all kinds, I guess. Laugh out loud, Rebecca. And so that sounds like an interesting idea. Flight 93, of course, everybody will maybe not everybody, but will remind you, was that flight that was hijacked, but the passengers overcame the hijackers, and many think that this flight was destined to head to Washington, D.C. to crash into something significant and cause all kinds of mayhem. So the folks on board realized what was happening, and they were quite heroic in bursting through that cockpit door and keeping that airplane from heading to where it was intended. Quite an important event, and I think that doing a meetup there might be something that would be, a good thing.
I'm sure there are a lot of people who would feel sufficiently moved to want to go and do that, Jeff.
Yeah,
absolutely. And especially if they're working towards the final installment of the, official permanent memorial. I think a lot of people would be interested in seeing that as well. So,
yes. So we'll, as I said, a lot of different places, we'll never forget. And it was, many years ago now, 2001. So 16 years ago since that terrible event. And, but we can't forget the heroism on this flight. So thank you, Rebecca, for suggesting it. And if anybody out there feels so moved, please contact Rebecca. I'll put her contact information in the show notes, as well as the other links that she had mentioned. With that, let's see. I guess it's time to wrap this thing up. Anybody want to say anything before we do the final wrap up?
No,
I don't think so.
All right.
No.
Then let's do this. As always, if you're interested in learning more about the APG community, the APG crew, the coffee fund, merchandise, and much more, head over to the website, airlinepilotguy.com. Also, we have the apps for the iOS and Android platforms, and you can learn about how to download those on the website as well, or the show notes for the show. Social media.
Social media, you can find us on Twitter using the handle @APGCrew. You can find our individual Twitter handles pinned to the top of that page as well. You can go to Facebook, facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. All kinds of information there about interesting links that community members post. Usually there's some information about meetups there as well, if those are happening, and just other general announcements. Good ways to interact with us.
And we have something called Slack. And this is where Hillel tells us about how to join our Slack group.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack.
And this is where I'll enter this information in post because that application just crashed. So you'll never know when you're listening to the audio podcast because you'll hear Hillel. Thanks, Hillel. And let's see. I guess that about does it. So wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care and God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, guys. Thank you. Have a great night. We'll see you next time.
Yay! Dana had himself unmuted. Awesome.
Yay.
Yay. Yeah, I'm multitasking right now, but that's okay.
Oh, yeah? What are you doing? You're on the phone with somebody?
I'm actually doing a survey with the company with the University of Manchester. So,
well, what better time to do it than now when we're recording the show?
Well, they
That's
called,
awesome.
so they never call usually. So I'm doing 3 things at once here, so I got to go.
No one ask what the third is. Just don't ask.
All right, Dana. Get out of
Bye,
here.
guys.
Have a good trip.
Bye-bye. Cheers.
All right. See you, Dana. Oh, too funny.
Oh, boy.
3 things? I don't want to know.
Huh?
He said 3 things?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
He's breathing. He's listening to us.
I was just being funny.
Oh, okay. I couldn't see his hands, so I was guessing what the third thing was. Thank you, Dana. Appreciate that.
Wow. Thanks for that picture, Captain Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah, my picture never came back. My video never came back. I don't know what's going on here. But,
I know, and it wouldn't. Mine stopped switching back and forth between the different videos too, so I just have had it stuck on Nick because I needed.
Really?
Yeah, it's.
Well, I've been trying to do the like the manual switching, but it probably hasn't had no effect.
Probably not.
Well, I have noticed, Jeff, that at the end of the plain tales, when you come away from that image that you put up, the photograph, my Google Hangout page, the video page, resizes slightly, and I can't then change the size of it, and it's really kind of weird. It's like all the little thumbnail pictures half disappear off the bottom of the frame, and there's nothing I can do to get it back. And it's happened the last few shows. I mean, it's never been a problem. It's not a big deal. It's just that it's like that something odd glitches in Hangout when you come away from that image.
So maybe what I should do in the future is just not use the Hangout toolbox and just keep my video on.
Well, I suggest using the same thing that I do, which is on eyeglasses, and produce a, put the picture there and just show it as a file picture, because it'll still come
I can
up
try
the same
that.
way.
But right now I'm not using eyeglasses because it
Fair
uses extra CPU, and then my fan starts going nuts.
Sorry.
So
A chance to mute myself.
what I'll do is I can get a piece of paper and just like with the marker.
Just hold it up.
Yeah, you could do. Yeah.
Old school.
Old school. Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Title
Yeah.
card.
Or just use your damn imagination and
Exactly
picture that
right.
wonderful plain tales slide that Nick did.
All right, I'll do another one simpler.
Yeah, well, just send me a piece of paper with.
Yeah.
Just like, chicken scratch. Plain.
Really, I'll just hold it in front of the camera.
That's it.
It'll work. Yeah, well, you know what? I thought I really enjoyed today's show. I thought there was a lot of great feedback, and I think the news was interesting.
It was good. Yeah, it was considering only 3 days or 4 days have gone by since the last show. I thought that news was great. a lot has happened.
Yeah,
That's
not necessarily good news, but just a lot of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But it's like we'll go for like periods of time where there's like really nothing to talk about. So you're talking about stupid things that really don't mean much, and then all of a sudden you get this spurt of really significant news, like these tragedies and accidents, incidents, that kind of thing.
Now, just a question: what was so funny in the intro that got you giggling?
Oh,
I
it
didn't
was his
do
hotel
anything.
room. I didn't do it.
Oh,
was
right.
it Dana? Did you do that, Nick?
Somebody changed
No,
my.
I didn't do that. You see, I've stopped doing it because it seems every time I play with it, it seems to glitch and Jeff gets all upset. So I thought, well, I better not anymore.
Well, it was the correct one. Like when I joined and when I logged on to the Hangout, and then I didn't even notice until Jeff was reading it.
Well, obviously Dana must have done it because I put in my correct room number, which is
I'm listening.
Yeah.
We're just admiring. Was it your handiwork?
I'm
Dana?
listening. I'm listening to you guys. I hear you.
Did you change the intro script to 69?
Answer the question then.
Yes, I did actually.
Okay, there you go. He is the culprit. So I had room 322 for the studio number in the very beginning of the show. And then as I'm reading it, it says 69. It just made me laugh.
It just took you, I could tell it just took you by surprise. Like, and I was kind of following along and I didn't even think about it until I looked at it. And I was like, oh, that's not what was there before.
So very touche, Dana, touche. Yeah, it's not often that you guys trip me up like that, but
I did though.
There have been a few times, and today was one of them. So quit messing with my intro script. You doing this stupid survey. What is he doing?
Stupid survey with Manchester. What the hell does it do with Manchester? I don't know.
I don't know.
Is it Manchester in England or Manchester?
But apparently this is something so important that he has to, do this.
I gotta go to bed anyway.
Yeah, it's late, isn't it?
I'm on call tomorrow, so I need to get some
1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. Go to bed.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Thank you very much, everyone, for watching the show with us and
it
hanging
was
out
the
with
survey for the contract and whether what we think we should have and we should not have. And I get the call, and 99% of the time I have to hang up on them. So this time I opted to listen to the show at the same time of inputting in the show, and also because I knew you ending the show that I would go ahead and take the phone call because I wanted to give them my input.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Dana? Was he back with us? I heard somebody that sounded like Dana. What was that? So those things,
it's hissing.
I just kind of like block.
I thought
number
in America rattled, not hissed.
Wow. Are you pulling my chain?
Wow.
No, I just always assume that people like Dana will actually take those surveys.
So what Jeff's saying
no,
is
that's the first time I've done it in 2 years, dude.
Wow.
No. I think that's a wonderful thing. It's good to be involved. It really is.
Yeah. It is. I mean, that's why I'm involved with the APG.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Well, so you can do surveys. I don't understand.
We're going to be sending out a survey soon, a telephone survey. So don't block my number when I call you. And
good point. Good point. Hey, guys, been fun. Have a good.
I just put the mute off.
See you next week.
Okay,
night,
Nick. Hope you get a trip, and I hope it's a good one. And
no, I hope. No, I don't.
No Lagos. No Lagos.
I want you to come to Atlanta. Come to Atlanta.
You say, hope you don't get a trip, Nick.
Yeah, come to Atlanta, and then we'll have a good time.
Okay, well that'll do. Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. All right.
All right,
good night,
guys. All the best.
Great
Bye.
to have you.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
All right, Steph. So nice to have you back with us.
Yeah, great.
We missed you, and hope you just tear it up in that race this weekend.
Same goal: 4 hours, 30 minutes. It's supposed to be warm and rainy, apparently. So
what's the best do you think you could do? Could you do like 4?
The fastest I've run, my best time on that course is 4 hours 11 minutes.
Wow, I think you're going to beat it this time.
I'm at 4 hours and 30 minutes would be plenty fine by me.
Okay.
I'm looking for consistency. The goal is consistency.
Yeah, that's true. I would shoot for like 10 hours.
Yeah, perfect.
I would shoot for 3 days because that'd be about my pace walking.
Well, I mean, really, the weather doesn't look ideal. I've been doing a bunch of travel. I ran a marathon 2 weeks ago. 4 hours and 30 minutes would be really nice.
Well, we'll be pulling for that for you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have a good trip. And,
thank you.
Great run. And
appreciate it.
We love you. We missed you. And I was just kidding about all that stuff about the PTK because I love all those guys.
Oh, I know you were. I did feel slightly bad. I was like,
no. Really don't feel bad because I really didn't feel bad about it at all. Okay. I just thought it was an opportunity for me to kind of have some fun.
Yes. Well, it was very nice of them to even suggest to do that in the first place. So
yeah,
my thanks to those guys. It was
great
nice.
Guys.
Yeah.
Top notch.
Yep.
Speaking of top notch, Dana, top notch in my book. Thank you for taking away some of your beach time to join us today. As always, great to hear from you.
Likewise. Appreciate being on here. We're still live. You know that, right?
I do know that.
Oh, okay,
That's
cool.
why I'm being so nice to you. As soon as I hit the stop broadcast button, I'm going to start yelling.
Wait, hold on. Let me pull out the money. I need to pay you for that.
Yeah, you better get that ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. Don't you worry.
All right. So everybody in the chat room, thanks for hanging with us. James, hope to see you on Thursday afternoon. And what else? That's about it. Okay. Going to hit the stop broadcast button. Thanks everybody for watching this crazy video. I'm sorry we wasted your time.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye, everybody.